Hello, this is Darcinovia. Holy shit! I'm doing a stream a few days after my last one. Wow! Has the stars aligned? Well, unfortunately, we're talking about a certain grifter that I don't think we addressed like enough. We should have addressed him sooner, but due to recent things that I found out through an article about you know his questionable like beliefs when it comes to like pro workers rights. I had to do this because it was the opportune moment to do it because Jimmy Dore is it there's this false narrative that Jimmy Dore is pro working class, and anybody that fucking knows anything about Jimmy Dore, what he's been doing for the past few years, knows that's fucking bullshit. Why would you defend Kyle Rittenhouse? And I'm bringing up Kyle Rittenhouse specifically because Rittenhouse, what he represents is the opposite of fucking pro working class. Why would you support some fascist fucking wannabe cop? Yeah, I will call Kyle Rittenhouse a fascist because that's clearly what he was.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? It's like, seriously. Kyle Rittenhouse is not for the working class. He's on the side of the fucking bourgeoisie. And it's clearly shown since he platformed the Blue Gulu Boy that Jimmy Dore is basically embedded with fascists. Like, let's not forget, Caleb Maupin went on his show. So same thing with Jackson Hakel. And it's like, I know Jackson Hakel said some stupid shit. It doesn't matter. Where are all the leftists? It's like, but he platformed Chris Hedges about Chris Hedges. The guy's a fascist as well. I was like, you're calling everyone a fascist, Arsenovia? No. Why would you basically have a? I'm like Chris Hedges. You can't find this video anymore because of RT's channel being deleted. But on his last on contact, I don't even know if it was his last, but it was his one he did last year. He platformed a guy that was basically a open Chinaphobe.
Yep.
And basically claiming, since China doesn't know Western values, their rise is dangerous. It's like, wait, what? How is this not fueling anti-China hatred? For by doing that, he's helping the anti-Asian sentiment in this country. And not to mention, there's other things he said too on Jimmy Dore's show. We talked to, we have to work together with. We may have to work together with people who are pro-life, who are anti-women, and none of this woke Maoist shit. It's like, wait, what? Gengaros, you want to come on the stream? You're more than welcome to come on. It's like, yeah. And not to mention this guy literally fucking he does. He really fucking does. It's like Chris Hedges stands for nothing. And the very fact that I once fucking followed this fucking clown just makes me sick.
Same
here. It really does make me sick. It's like, I don't care if he wrote a book about Christian fascists, which basically explains the rise of the Christian right. It's a book that basically details the history of far right extremism, but it doesn't change the fact that Chris Hedges collaborates with these fucking people and openly and criticizes Antifa and doesn't offer nothing, which he's not supposed to.
Yeah, the whole position of Chris Hedges is literally just, bend over and let the fascist, go run wild. We shouldn't be arming ourselves. In fact, if anything, we should be collaborating with the anti-establishment fascist against the quote-unquote establishment, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
What the fuck that means? It's like the guy offers literally. No, this is not off topic from Jimmy Dore because these types are all the fucking same. They're actively collaborating
they're
with
connected.
the very people they claim to be against.
Yeah.
He got into Jimmy Dore's head, that whole misconception about the young lords, that they were somehow racist or white supremacists, which is not what they were. Look up the young lords; it's been completely
Hmm.
debunked about them. And they were an
Yeah.
anti-racist, you know, group of Southern white people who wanted to form their own kind of group, like what was it? What's the what's that Latino group? The Young Lords as well, something like that, or like the Black
Yeah.
Panthers? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and Chris Hedges is the same person who, I mean, I've read some of his books too, and he kind of helped me push away from the whole Bernie call in 2016, 17. I got kind of lucky, I guess, to an extent. Of course, now I know what Hedges really is about. And I mean, this is a guy who denies stuff like historical progress, and yeah, he basically tells the left in America to not bother, yeah, not bother, organizing, and you're not going to win against the government, and basically pushing this kind of like pessimistic defeatism, cultural pessimism as well. If you read some of his books, you could tell how cynical he is. And I mean, this is a guy who says that like all of history is equal regardless of like past, present, or future. Like I said, denies historical progress.
Well, he pushed this bullshit narrative in one of his books that Lenin was a right winger and a
Yeah,
reactionary.
and
Jeez.
that comes directly from Chomsky right there. That kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
He also
Yeah.
he misinterpreted as well Lenin's NEP statement, where he basically tried to imply that Lenin just said, "Oh, we just brought about state capitalism, and that's all that the Bolsheviks managed to do." And it's like, no, in fact, you've completely fucking rewrote history there. The whole reason
Yeah.
for the NEP was because of the failure of the German Revolution and the whole building up the Soviet Union, socialism in one country, which is another thing that's been distorted. And it was supposed to be a transitionary phase. It was only supposed to last like a few years until like what was it, 1925. It lasted until like 28, and it was supposed to build it up to a point in order to get towards socialist transition. So he completely 100% distorting Lenin's quote with that right then and there.
You want to know another thing that really is sus about these people? They care more about Alex Jones being deplatformed, any fucking right winger getting deplatformed, but are silent over the censorship of people like Abby Martin,
Yeah.
who not only was denied the ability to speak. I forgot which state it was because she had a
Georgia.
Georgia.
Hmm.
before Georgia before she refused to sign like a a paper that would swear her allegiance to
Right.
Israel.
And keep in
Yeah.
mind too, it's not just Georgia. It's like literally like
Yeah, it's
I forget what the number.
Florida.
It's
Well,
like what
Yeah.
three-fourths of like all the U.S. states or some insane number
well,
like
there's
that.
other stuff
Yeah.
too. Like Abby Martin used to. I don't even think used to work for Telesur. Like when the sanctions against Venezuela were enacted in the Trump administration, she like she had a difficult time getting her program Empire Files to continue, and she needed to rely on donations in order to continue her program. It's like you could tell who's legitimately fighting the good fight and who isn't. Abby Martin, if she wanted to, she could have sold out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, she had the perfect chance to do that in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea, and she was on the air and very bravely said, "I do not support this,"
Yeah, I remember
which is
that.
more or less my position as well on the whole situation. Violated international law, and um, you know, right of self-determination of nations and just but yeah, like she could have easily sold out and did a loyalty oath to Israel or whatever, but
Yeah, she could have. Yeah, and she didn't have to go to Palestine and all that as well. She could have
It's like
just, but
you,
but she risked herself doing that.
you didn't see Chris Hedges ever do any of that. I've been shot at, I've risked my life in war. It's like he hasn't. Where is the documentaries of Palestine? He never did one.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
It's
his
so
whole answer to Palestine too would probably just be, "Oh, we just need peaceful. We just need like some peace movement. We need a
yeah.
what was that one quote by what's his face? Who's that New York Times hack? Friedman, whatever the fuck his name first name
Milton
was.
Friedman.
Milton, yeah, one of those guys. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't Milton Friedman. It was I'll remember his name later on. But basically, what he said was, "Oh, where is the Palestinian Gandhi?" Basically, he was asking this question
gee.
facetiously, and it's like literally like, did you completely ignore like the walk of like the March of Return and all the
Yeah,
peaceful demonstrations that happened in like 2018 or whatever, and then they got like all shot down and mowed
yeah.
down by the apartheid regime.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of crimes happening just like the past few weeks where they're like shooting refugee camps. Well, if you can even call it that, just because of how dystopic it is there. But and yeah, it's genocide there. And the thing is too is like whether it's with Hedges and all this, it's like what's happened since like the Boogaloo Boys after that. Jimmy Dore goes on this huge. We already know about the whole him and COVID, and then what's the other thing that happened recently? I think Jimmy Dore was like praising Maloney or something like that, and he
Yeah,
wasn't the only one as well.
yeah,
yeah the prime minister of Italy, who is a lifelong fascist member of the
Yeah,
successor fascist party to Mussolini's fascist party.
yeah,
you know, it's just like if you guys watched the latest Empire Files Abby Martin did, she talked about this of a moral technique, and I think it's relevant. She literally said that majority of the people that I once worked with and fought with are the very thing that I'm fighting against now. Like every single one of these fucking people that once worked with Abby Martin or sympathized with her, Glenn Greenwald, um,
yeah.
freaking
Matt Taibbi. Well,
Oh
speaking of which,
yeah,
Chris
Matt
Hedges,
Taibbi. Yeah,
yeah,
like
I'm gonna have to
Max
like.
Blumenthal, the Gray Zone, which is totally not named after the Wagner newspaper Gray Zone, but
like
I,
like
I swear,
all these fucking people are just have sold out and just support and gone to the right and
yeah, and Michael Tracy, this is another Bernie bro, Jimmy Dore acolyte. He basically said that he would be okay with like Hitler invading Iceland and the British were wrong and I'm not
uh,
even kidding. Like, yeah, that's what these people are turning into. I think Glenn Greenwald was like defending the that little insurrection the Bolsonaro fascists did. It was an empty building. Yeah, yeah. Greenwald was like, "Oh, Lula's going too far." Although to be fair, Lula's still a piece of shit. But yeah, it's like this is the trajectory of all these sock dems, all these people that we thought, and of course they aren't. We thought that they were, somewhat progressive, or when they're not. In fact, they're regressing. I'd
what
argue.
if you ask me, I'm just gonna say this. Jimmy Dore, I don't think would ever really believed in anything to begin with. He has no ideology. A lot of his
Hmm.
former
yeah,
fucking associates say the same thing.
Yeah,
Like he even admitted on multiple occasions he would sell out because it made more money.
yeah, and he's
yeah,
He's a
making tons of money.
he's a
Yeah,
multimillionaire. Why wouldn't he? It's in his
exactly.
class interest.
Yeah, it is, and I don't care how much he's mad at Bernie because he didn't go on his show. Like we know that's part of the grift now. We've known that for a while, and
Well, it,
yeah,
and I'm so sick and tired of saying, "Oh, Jimmy Dore is against the establishment." It's like, no, he isn't really. He's pushing
no,
another side of it.
he's going on like he Greenwald and all these other ones. And then of course they're all connected closely, Gabbard. And
Yeah,
they all go on Tucker Carlson's show. That's why we can't ignore this either because they're promoting this fucking red brown shit on that stupid fascist TV channel. And we
And,
all know about Tucker. So
and
yeah,
don't forget, Caleb Maupin once showed up on his show.
yep,
yeah, he
yep.
can go like 5 times.
I wouldn't be shocked if the right things are going. Then Haas will probably show up on Jimmy Bore's show.
It's like we should have not have. If I'm just criticized myself, we should not. We should have not have ignored the signs or acknowledged them early on, like
Yeah.
like like Falcone General was sounding the alarm. So was
Hmm.
Socialism for All.
Yeah.
I the moment that I really turned on Dore was the Boogaloo Boy movement because I knew for a fact I know what the Boogaloo Boys stand for. What was that movie called? The Electric Boogaloo 2, the what is it? Electric
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. It's supposed to be like a parody of the first film, like I forget what, but basically it's supposed to be a parody of the U.S. Civil War, except now it's supposed to be a literal race war, and
it's a
that's what
living
Boogaloo
parody.
is. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
had
It's
on a
literally.
guy. Yeah, he had on a guy who literally straight up was pushing for a race war and tried to make him and made them like appear better than they were. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, like just openly, like, giving them a positive spin at all, not like criticizing them or anything like that. Whatever.
Well, what really pissed me off about Jimmy Dore, really, even which maybe not want to ever listen to anything he had to say again, even as a hate watcher, was him defending Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah. I mean,
It,
he's also doing the anti-trans stuff as well. All that. That
and
fucking fascist culture war crap.
and and COVID misinformation. How many people
Hmm.
has he gotten killed because of his negligible, coverage of COVID? And I know how these petty bourgeois fuckers, like how they can distort, COVID to scare, marginalized groups in America that haven't had a really good history with the medical system for their own
Yeah.
fascist agenda. I
Well, if you ask me, I don't even think he believes any of the shit he's saying. I mean, if you really think about it, he's pushing a form of eugenics in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I mean, look at these contracts he's having. Like, well, even before the contract, I'll bring up this part. I mean, we all remember that when one of those COVID episodes Jimmy did, where he he got his shit wrong and he tried to blame it on the assistant or whatever.
yeah,
And now we don't know like the full background of that. Some people think maybe he just made that up, but now we know that he's like he in his contracts with people he hires, he literally has like clauses there where like there won't be arbitration if it's like a union busting thing. There's other things where like if somebody breaks the NDA, like the smallest thing, like basically somebody could say something small about Jimmy's, I don't know, investments or work stuff. He has a clause there where like he will charge you like $10,000 maximum per violation or whatever,
Um,
and the contract also like basically gives away the right for the employee to take that arbitration to a jury, Like this guy's literally and this is a guy who has like Richard Wolff on every few months too, by the way. Another these sock dems, fake Marxists.
Who
So like,
charges who
Oh,
yeah,
charges
like,
literally
hold on.
thousands of dollars.
Okay, I'm just getting a link to the article. So attacking the menace, so they can take a look at it for themselves.
sure.
Oh, actually, I might have to send it again just to be on the safe side. But anyway, because I would not. Sorry, you know, it would be negligent of me not to at least get a link to it. I don't know. I'm just doing it twice, whether it's be on the safe side,
Right.
because so those can read it for themselves. So because it isn't just our word. Like I'm just get. Well, I mean, this article says it.
Yeah, and people had suspicions that like, this is not surprising now that, the petty bourgeois guy like Jimmy is like a fucking terrible boss and doesn't give a shit about workers' rights. You
Just
see
okay.
this.
Just read the article for yourselves. For those who are skeptical of what we're saying, don't take our word for it. Read the article. I would, I would question if you just take our word for it because, I'm not bullshitting you. I'll give you the link to the article so you can read it for yourself, so you can fact check it.
Yeah, and look at all of Jimmy's history as well, He has this track pattern of lying now, this track pattern of selling out, track pattern of this reactionary shit. I mean, it was not really that surprising. I mean, we know about places like Counterpunch was like doing their own form of union busting. Some people might not even remember what Counterpunch was, but it used to
Or,
be a left site.
or how about the fact that the way he talked about the Amazon unionization?
Wait, did Jimmy like oppose that? Wow.
I
I
wouldn't
didn't
say.
know that.
Well, I haven't been paying attention. Did he oppose it, Uncle Garrett? I know he said something about one of the people like that was egregious. I just don't remember. I can't remember every egregious thing he's done.
Yeah, and
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched him in at least a couple of years now, so I
But
don't know myself.
but let's just say I wouldn't be shocked if he underreported on it or just barely
Yeah.
talked about it.
yeah, I'm not surprised if it was under talked about. I heard many other YouTubers didn't talk about it as well. That the ones that claim to be left. Because
Speaking of which, remember I don't know what he calls himself now, but formerly the Fred Hampton leftist. Remember that guy? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
oof.
Isn't it RBM now?
yeah.
Revolution
Yeah,
Blackout Radio.
yeah, another populist reactionary. Yeah, had Hinkle on and all that. Um,
And he was fucking basically attacking his audience for questioning why they put this person on when he's a known
yeah,
fascist.
yeah.
And can we just bring this up about Jimmy Dore and his ilk? Caleb Maupin also fits in this camp. I'm so sick and tired of them like misrepresenting history of Fred Hampton.
Yeah.
Oh, Fred Hampton worked with white supremacists. No, he didn't. Can we just,
Yeah,
can we
it's
just put this narrative to bed? Yes, some of the people he worked with did use the Confederate flag, but you want to know what they did? They got rid of it when they were after after they were working with them.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the Young Patriots. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the particular group that Chris Hedges in that one interview. They literally had a video, and I'm not even joking here, where it says, "Can the far left and far right unite?" And the thumbnail for it is literally people at Charlottesville, and then across from it is Black Lives Matter protesters. And then Chris Hedges and Jimmy Dore basically, push this narrative that the Young Lords were actually neo Nazis, and they were working with the Black Panthers. I'm literally not even joking.
Yeah, and I remember that. I think Hedges tried to say like Aryan something or
Yep.
whatever, and it was
Yep.
like ooh. Yeah, and the thing is too is like we can't ignore all this development of this regression where the Sockdems are well, they're going through their fascist path. Some of them deviated towards the NATO one. These ones are a little bit more on the whole campus styled shit with the fucking reactionary populism on top of it. Um and like we can't ignore it. We're not liberals, and we will call out this like cult of personalities around these grifters, these fascists. Yeah, and it can't be ignored, and then we're not coming from it from like a I don't know, a scorned fan. No, and I'm not a fan. I never donated money to Jimmy Dore. So and I'm willing to admit that I messed up too. I I should have been more considerate of the signs earlier than yeah.
Well, it's a sign of inexperience, and I will say this is because unfortunately, I'm. This is a criticism I will give to whiteness because of our whiteness. Meaning, I don't know, at least mine. I didn't. I did not see through Jimmy Dore sooner, unlike people from other marginalized groups who were ringing the bells, or people with experience, like with libertarians, like socialism for all. That these people you cannot be trusted. They're all snakes, and I think that's what where majority of his base are. They're fucking white. They're white. They're white people that don't want to like acknowledge their white privilege or acknowledge the role they're playing in the continued oppression of of indigenous and African people, or let's say more accurately, people of African descent.
I I agree 100% with that, and I'd like to add on a bit that I think it wasn't just my whiteness that white privilege that blocked me from. This goes even beyond just even Jimmy Dore, but the whole sock dem, I guess you could say, phase of my first
Mm-hmm.
10 years of being politically aware. I'd say, or at least half of that, from like 2010 to 2016. I spent those 6 years and I wasted them. I wasted them on reformism, uh, social democracy, voting in better Democrats. I tried everything, and it
Mm-hmm.
looking back looks really fucking stupid.
Well,
But
it's
I
like
think I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I came from a middle class background, and for a lot of these middle class people, they believe in the shit that fucking Caleb Maupin is saying with the whole oh, we can have a peaceful transition to socialism bullshit,
there
that
is
kind of
one
shit.
thing I would disagree with Immortal Technique on at the end of his at Abby Martin's interview when he said there's only two classes. Anybody that knows anything about Marxist theory knows that's bullshit.
Yeah,
Or it's it or okay,
Yeah.
let's not say it's bullshit. Let because I respect the guy. Let's just say it's basically simplistically looking at the world. There isn't two classes. There's multiple classes. There's the bourgeoisie, then there's the petty bourgeoisie, then there's the working class, and then you have the the what do you call them? The aristocratized working class. Then you have the
Yeah, the
lumpen
labor
bourgeoisie.
aristocracy.
Then you have the lumpen bourgeoisie, the labor aristocracy, the lumpen proletariat. It's like there isn't just two classes. That's just a simple way of looking at the world. But that's what Jimmy Dore does push, and same thing with Caleb Maupin. That's why the middle class isn't really talked about.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't want to talk about, the labor aristocracy and all that. I mean, Bernie's campaign was literally one of his slogans was that I was going to help the middle class. That's Bernie himself. I remember that too. And yeah, I had that socked in phase as well. I've had my own issues with this like neo-colonial whiteness thing, even though I'm not white. And definitely don't consider myself that in the ages. And yeah, it's and and I should have done a better job of questioning all these YouTube Bernie celebrities. And trust me, I don't even keep up with many of them now. I only hear bits here and there or articles or small clips, but like I don't like necessarily like hate watch Jimmy Dore, but it's he's not ignorable. And we talked about how they're all going on Tucker Carlson every week, and you know they're out there promoting fascism to millions of people.
It's like none of these people would have, like none of these if these people would put Abby Martin on now, they wouldn't. It's and they'll say that people like Abby Martin are the part of the elite or are supporting the elite's agenda, yet they are actually pushing the actual elite's agenda. And let's not give these people like the benefit of the doubt. Oh, they don't know, they're ignorant. They know fully damn well what they're doing. You don't
Yeah,
fucking go on Tucker Carlson's show unless you
yeah.
know what kind of fucking agenda you're pushing.
Yeah, exactly. And they do water down their message when they're on there. So
And then you'll get these idiots like Jimmy Dore saying, "Yeah, but Tucker is talking about stopping fucking war. Why don't you guys support stopping fucking war?" And it's like, one, no, he's not, and I can give you numerous examples of how Tucker Carlson is not against war or the
yeah,
it's
they're
this
just
whole libertarian, like it's this libertarian, oh, libertarians are against war kind of bullshit. It's
yeah,
like, it's so fucking stupid.
yeah,
There
they're just
is,
pushing.
yeah, there is no anti-war capitalism.
Well, he supported every fucking war except the freaking ones except the one with Biden, as far as I recall, or Obama. I don't know about that, but he supported pretty much. There hasn't been that many wars that he hasn't supported.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. And what's it called? Yeah, and yeah, they're all going on Tucker and doing that shit. There's no
Not to mention,
anti-war.
they support fucking Russia's war on Ukraine. It's like, what the fuck does that
Yeah,
even
they're
tell you?
it's campism. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
And okay, and don't okay. Just for your information, for those of you here, we don't support either side in the Ukraine conflict because there is no good guys.
Hmm.
I
It's
mean, yeah,
fascists fighting fascists.
yeah, I'm on the side of the proletariat, which is basically
Yeah,
neither
I
side
support. Yeah, I
government.
support revolutionary defeatism. We don't support this neo-Kautsky or Trotskyist line of helping helping one bourgeois faction win or the other. Um, and yeah, Trotsky was rooting for Germany to win World War I. I think I remember that correctly. So
Oh, that would have
so
worked out real well for the Bolsheviks once they won World War I. I'm sure that Germany wasn't. Yeah, did people seem to forget that in the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, it literally the stipulations of the treaty more or less turned Russia into a colony of Germany, more or less, from the economic. Like they were literally going to economically dominate and crush them. In fact, what
yeah.
was it? I think it was Ludendorff who said, "We'll put Lenin and his gang into power to overthrow the Tsar, and then the second I get the chance, I will strangle him and his allies."
Yeah, and obviously, we're aware of Trotsky and Kerensky and all that, but these are the type of people like if 100 years ago, people like Jimmy Dore would have been supporting Germany winning World War I, or the other ones would have supported Nicholas winning.
Well, or here's the thing: Jimmy Dore even basically said the Nazis weren't as bad as the Democrats. No fucking joke. He said some pretty pro-Nazi rhetoric at
Wow.
some of his freaking like streams. I mean, you can fucking find it. Hell, some of his own
Yeah.
followers basically forgot that lady's name, and she's fucking crazy. She's like lives in Russia right now. She was praising Hitler. It's
Yeah,
like
and I mean, you got some of these other pro-Russia campists like defending Wagner and all this. literal like Nazi militias.
It's like, I don't care what anyone says. I can't believe I have to say this. I've been saying this for years. Guilt by association is a thing.
Yep.
When so many of your support of the people that you surround yourself with are fascists or fascist aligned, guess where you lie? That isn't. Let's say there isn't 6 fascists in the room. There's 7.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Dore is a fascist. He supports the police. I mean, why else would he support Kyle Rittenhouse? I mean, any support for him is the support for the police. I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, Jimmy Dore's dad was a cop, so I mean, and I've heard him say that before.
Yep. He also wants to disarm the proletariat, which is also super fucking sus.
Yeah, she still supports this kind of liberal gun control bullshit or fascist gun control shit. Yeah, it's.
I don't care what anyone says. Just because you oppose the squad means jack and shit. That's doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, you know.
It's like, who gives a shit about AOC? Really, who cares? Who cares about this narcissist? Why do we even still talk about this narcissist in the first place?
All of Congress is completely redeemable, anyways. It's like, we don't care about these new frauds or the next cyclical, fake progressive squad or whatever. They're all frauds. Yeah,
it's like that's where most of their supporters' politics begin and end. Is the squad bad or Democrat bad? It's like Jimmy Dore, I recall, before he sold out, condemned both the Republicans and the Democrats.
Yeah.
And then he saw the money flow, and then he's like, "Oh, okay."
Okay, I guarantee you, when the Republicans get into power again, he's going to lose relevance. He's only relevant as long as the Democrats. We have a Democratic president.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, then you got people like Glenn Greenwald, who was big promoter of Jimmy Dore, and fuck you, Edward Snowden, for giving us Greenwald.
And here's another thing as well. With Glenn Greenwald in particular, there was already some clear signs that he was a fascist beforehand. I mean, like him defending quote unquote free speech of Nazis, literal Nazis.
Yeah.
He was also a vehement anti-communist. You can go through his records in the 2000s. Clearly, this libertarian anti-communist, basically.
And then he called Bolsonaro anti-establishment like a day before the election, and it was like whoa, like this is like, we know Lula is shit, but like, come on, this is complete opportunist nonsense.
Yep.
Well, Edward. Okay, even though Edward Snowden did, there's a lot of information we would not know if it weren't for Edward Snowden. So we can't just completely dismiss what he did.
I want to point out too, though, with Edward's, like with the leaks with Edward Snowden, we don't know everything that's in those leaks. And do you know why that is? Because Glenn Greenwald and The Intercept covered it up. A lot of that is still being held, I think probably still by Glenn Greenwald, if I had to.
Yeah, and Greenwald is a lawyer as well. And so I don't know. Yeah, they never explained that whole story with the whole Intercept and leaks or whatever. They just kind of, I don't know, covered it up on a huge flash drive or something. For all we know. I mean, yeah, and we know about Greenwald, I guess, going on Tucker a million times, going on Laura Ingraham. Like, give me a fucking break. Like,
you're not anti-establishment if you go on one of the biggest establishment pieces in the entire country. Like, Tucker Carlson is the most popular show in the entire fucking country. You cannot get any more establishment than freaking Tucker Carlson. If you say you're anti-establishment, yet you go on probably what would look like a Nazi freaking propagandist fucking show that would fit perfectly with in 1930s Germany. You are not fucking anti-establishment. You are pro-establishment.
Yeah, a a guy whose father was head of like what was it, Voice of America, Radio Free Europe,
Yeah.
who was head of basically CIA. His father was CIA, like literally straight up.
Yeah,
Comes
and
from a wealthy family, supported the Iraq War.
yeah,
And he was also a member of Cato as well. Cato Institute.
yeah, and we all know that Tucker applied for the CIA, although he claims he got rejected. But
yeah,
yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
really gonna
Like,
believe that.
like pretty much half. Like, I would say, like most of the people on Fox News are CIA at that point.
Like, we don't even. For all we know, he's a government contractor. We don't fucking know whether he's with the CIA or working with them. It doesn't. It's completely irrelevant.
yeah, but like just the fact anybody would even try to apply, like that enough says about the person, though. It's like,
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like the CIA is a Nazi organization, which is fitting that I should say that because it was founded by by a lot of by former Nazis in the first place. So the shoe fits.
Oh, but
yeah.
didn't you hear Caleb Muffin? There aren't any secret Nazis in the U.S. government.
Yeah,
Wait. And let's not forget George Bush Sr. His family helped the rise of the Nazis. So, like I said, the shoe fits.
yeah, and with Max Blumenthal too as well. Like, what's Blumenthal been doing? He's been doing the same thing as Jimmy Dore. He's even defended the Boogaloo Boys now on the stupid Gray Zone.
I'm surprised Jimmy Dore has not platformed Margie Taylor Greene. I know he's praised her.
Well. So Glenn Greenwald already did a 1 hour interview with her recently this week.
Normalizing a fucking
Fascist.
Not just a
fucking
fascist, an open anti-Semite.
Yeah,
literal fucking.
she's literally the first member of Congress to try to create a Anglo-Saxon caucus, and she also called herself a Christian nationalist. So yeah, she's opened that kind of floodgate for this country.
Yeah, I hope somebody pushes her in front of a car. Honestly.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously we know about like Dore and all them going on Rogan, another fascist who like supports that fucking governor in Texas. Elon Musk. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of these across the board, a lot of these people were cheering on this whole Elon Musk shit. I've been saying forever that nobody should be happy this guy's buying up a social media company. The guy, we don't want billionaires. No.
Well,
Yeah, since when did we support billionaires?
I got a question. Has J.K. Rowling been banned from Twitter by Elon Musk yet, or are they buddy?
No, they're buddies. Yeah.
Of course. Of course, I will never say this. I'm glad I'm off Twitter. Thank you, J.K. Rowling. Thank your turf ass for getting me banned. It was Twitter is literal fucking cancer, and now that Elon Musk now being the owner of it, I'm glad I'm gone from that site. It's a hive of fucking Nazis.
Yeah, and Twitter is gonna eventually die off. People are leaving, and I don't care about all the Nazis that are going back there. Just fuck. I hope Twitter goes bankrupt. And what's it called? And now recently, apparently, Bill Maher's like abandoning the Team Blue thing, and he's trying to do like a more nuanced version of like Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore. And he's like, oh, I'm like still a Democrat, but he's like cheering on DeSantis. And then he's got to put like Jimmy Dore on that show.
These labels mean nothing. Democrats, Republicans, it means nothing.
Right.
It's like, oh yeah, I'm a fascist, but with a different name. It's like one of the funniest things I could think of for Bill Maher. It's like, I haven't changed. The left has. It's like, Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and more. I had to bring it up too. Well, he's still on HBO Max and all that, and
If
he
you
goes in.
appear on PragerU, you're a fascist. I don't make
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
and
rules.
yeah, and Bill Maher, he did like a recent episode on on last week. I forced myself to watch it eventually just to get a grip of what it was, but he was literally like, he was literally saying that you're like a evil Maoist or Leninist if you like support, LGBTQ kids, not being fucking attacked by fascists,
What the
and I'm not
fuck?
even kidding. Yeah, he kept going on about like, oh, the woke and all that, and like
It's
he's already doing that Jimmy Dore styled grift as well, just on a bigger platform. Um,
well, it's not a surprise this guy's a fascist. He's a
yeah,
Zionist. If you're a
right.
Zionist, you're a fascist by default.
Yeah, and I suspect Bill Maher is gonna jump in on this fascist Soctom pro DeSantis wagon or whatever the fuck.
You know, can we
Um,
can we take one of my favorite quotes from Stalin, where he said, "Social democracy is the moderate wing of fascism."
Oh,
Yep.
and towards yeah, absolutely. And to that, Bill Maher towards the end of that clip, it was like 7 minute rant, and he even showed like pictures of Mao and all that to like scare his
Jesus
little
Christ.
audience. Yeah, and towards the end of it, he's like, "Oh, I think these people are gonna need some re-education," and it's like, wow, that's some like real fascist shit right there. Like we know what he means by that shit.
He
Yeah.
doesn't mean re-education.
Yeah.
He means putting leftists in a mass grave.
Yeah, that's what he
Either throwing
means.
us
Yeah,
either throwing us in a concentration camp to die of tuberculosis or just straight up shooting us.
Yeah,
yeah.
but let's be honest, Maoists and Marxist Leninists are like us. We're not even that big in this country. If anything,
Well,
I think Bill Maher's an idiot. Let's just be honest. If anything, the anarchists are the people are what the government's more afraid of than Marxist
yeah,
Leninist Maoists to begin
and
with.
yeah, and I'm just gonna say this too. Like, no Marxists should be fixating attacks on anarchists out here.
No,
They're
we don't have
yeah,
that many friends. I'm just saying, as someone that's a Maoist, we don't have that many friends, and it's stupid to attack anarchists who could be in a in this current situation. One of our things that can make a difference between life and death. It'd be stupid attacking like the biggest leftist group in this country. It's dumb.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And 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 to be clear, like, listen, we when we're talking about anarchist, we're not talking about either fascist trying to
hmm
label themselves as anarchists, like national syndicalism or something,
or
yeah,
or
or
pet
people.
or pet verified pedophile like Vosh.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or the
Vosh is
yeah,
another one,
or the right
or
wing and prims and all that.
and
Yeah,
yeah, the ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist fucking bullshit.
yeah. Don't forget the so-called anarcho primitivists. When you know where I'm heading through with that.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's yeah. So basically, the point I'm trying to get at here is, I my biggest problem, at least with anarchism in the United States, is it's oftentimes is dominated by this petty bourgeois socialist individualism of, like, I'm going to be this, I'm like a superhero and I'm going to go and save the world and yada 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 stuff like that. But to be fair, they are the only ones that seem to be seriously taking the threat of fascism seriously.
yeah,
At
and
least
and
at least outside of, like, some of these Maoist red guards or something like that.
yeah, and even like I think there was like an FBI officer or whatever that said that they considered anarchists to be like second in line of danger, compared to like the far right, which is completely insane. But it just shows you that they're scared. They're scared of the anarchists out here, especially in the West Coast as well. But Yeah, and we know they're gonna have like an anti-anarchist phase eventually.
Wait, okay,
Um,
eventually, it's what are you talking about? It already has
well,
happened.
well,
Like,
I know, yeah, it's happened, but I think they'll reamp it up again, if you know what I mean. They'll find some new excuse. That's what I meant by it.
Yep.
well, okay, I said this in my last stream, but I'll say it here. There is a good reason why a lot of black radicals do not trust white leftists or
Yeah,
or leftists from other groups in general,
yeah,
because if you look at the history of the black struggle, reason why I bring this up because they're the biggest like diaspora of any of these groups. The reason why it's difficult to unite with them because there's been a history of communists, so-called communists, stabbing the black community in the back, or ignoring them, or siding with the very people that they're fighting against,
yeah,
or
Or coming in and wrecking their organizations like CPUSA did with the Black Panthers.
yeah.
now the reason why we bring this up, why it's important, because we could when people like Black Redguard basically say that we should focus on our own communities and stop like telling the black community what to do, they're correct. If we can't fix our own shit, how the fuck are we supposed to be in solidarity with the African diaspora when we're not in solidarity with ourselves?
Right.
And I'm not saying we can't support these people. We definitely should. We should show solidarity with them. But you gotta understand, they are rightfully wary of us, and they have every right to be. Like
Oh,
white,
absolutely.
like white people have not given them any reason not to distrust us. We have not given them any reason not to. They've been burned too many times.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we know that some of these fascist soc dems are also starting to push anti-immigration, anti-migrant, rhetoric, and they'll increase. I'm sure Jimmy Dore is going to say something real stupid like that, or one of these people. And then yeah, that's why there's people who are skeptical of these petty bourgeois, white, so-called leftists. You
And
know,
let's not get started how some of them are actually pushing anti-black racism.
Yep.
yeah,
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 these people aren't serious about revolution. Like, if you were serious about revolution, why would you be attacking the most revolutionary potential elements of society, like undocumented migrants or the African diaspora in Turtle Island, United States,
The indigenous population.
the indigenous population.
yeah, and
I think I'm gonna make the one distinction here. Yes, there's reactionaries in the African diaspora. Yes, there's reactionaries in the indigenous and Jewish diaspora as well. But you want to know the difference between those reactionaries versus the white reactionaries? They're a product of their own environment, and they're not all malicious people.
yeah, and it's up to and it's going to be up to them, in those communities, for that revolutionary teaching to get a lot of them out of the reactionary phases, and it's up to them, and we
Well,
can't. Yeah,
I know we can, but I'm saying the distinction also is they suffer multi-generation
right,
trauma, and that
right.
is why I have empathy for those
Hmm.
reactionaries, because you know they've suffered racism, genocide,
Yeah.
and they're just doing what they can to survive. And I don't think we have any right to
Hmm.
basically go in their neighborhoods and criticize them for such a thing. That's something that
Right.
the diaspora should do themselves. I'm saying one thing we need to learn. I'm saying for the white, like, or let's say European descent. I don't even like using the word white
Hmm.
in my audience. Empathy is the thing we should start with first, because reactionaries are not all created equal. the white reactionaries, in my opinion, I have far less empathy for. The reason why, because unless because they've had it pretty good for most of this country's existence.
Yeah, I mean
By comparison,
the power dynamic, we can't, ignore the power
Right.
dynamic. The ones that have been in power for since, colonization of Turtle Island have been these, reactionary white European
And
reactionaries.
and we all know about generational wealth. Yes, it does exist. Anybody denying that is probably reactionary already. But yeah, we know about yeah,
well, I'm just saying there's also people who are extremely poor backgrounds that have some reactionary beliefs. That their former that is not the same also as people who are who
mhm,
are born middle class to have these
yeah,
views. I mean, they're not the same, and I don't think we should throw reactionaries with the same brush. I think there's different categories for reactionaries, and I think we should distinguish the difference between them because they're not all the same.
yeah,
To say they're all the same is being reductionist, because if that was the case, then the Bolsheviks would not have, and the Chinese would not have been able to actually build socialism in China or in Russia.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, and another one I was going to mention too, who's is part of that whole this fascist Wagner clique, is Richard Wolff. He was on Jimmy Dore a lot of times. I've seen him multiple times on Hedges show, and this distorter of Marxism that Wolff is. He's also done a lot of pandering towards the reactionary shit. Oh yeah, let's not forget about the whole. We already done it before though, but all of these people were guilty of promoting the whole truckers and all these other stuff. The petty
Yep.
bourgeois truckers, I mean.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um,
in Canada, there's like they're actually terrorizing an entire town. They
and
had
yeah,
they literally had no support, mostly no support in their own country. Well, they had support, but you get what I'm meaning.
Yeah.
Majority of their support it was in the United States.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I learned a lot from Jason Unruh about um, the trucker convoys and just how fucking fascist and
yeah.
reactionary they were, and how
Oh,
that they weren't truckers, they were
they
truck
they
owners.
they they stole food from a homeless person. I think they caught that shit on tape. Um, yeah, it's
Their their literal one of their prime demands was to remove Justin Trudeau from power and put in a fucking like the equivalent of like if they put in Alex Jones as president of the United States.
yeah. These fucking sock thems all supported this shit. We all went through it, obviously, but like
All
all of
wrote,
them.
s- s- all wrote for sorry, social democrats. All of roads lead to fascism if you're a social democrat. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Like all these like let's be honest, all these former Bernie bros, not all of them, but most of these Bernie bros that were on the Bernie
yeah.
Sanders bandwagon in 2016, where are they now?
Yeah, and if anybody is like honestly, if anybody is young and you're somehow like still in the Bernie thing, like please like listen carefully and fucking leave. Like I already went through that in 2015 and 16. I even went to the Dunn rally. Like please, you're in a cult. You're in a fascist cult. That guy's a fucking evil sellout and has been for a long, long time.
I mean,
So
this is
Um,
Bernie is not anything new. There has been movements in the Democratic Party to push it quote unquote left. And the thing is, the Democratic Party, you don't change the Democratic Party changes you. I mean,
yeah,
we've seen this before with other movements like Jesse Jackson in the 80s and
yeah, and McGovern.
McGovern. Like, it goes way back. I mean, we could go back to the 19th century, but we'll be here pretty much all freaking day.
Yeah, and,
Wait,
and the People's Party and the Green Party are not fucking alternatives. Don't waste your time with that. And of course, Nick Brana and the People's Party, and Jimmy Dore is connected to that, and Hedges as well. They're doing like some like alliance with the Libertarian Party for some pro-Russia event in DC, and like
Wait, hold on.
D-
I thought Chris Hedges was anti-war.
well, yeah, I mean it's well, he
I thought
says
he
he's
was.
against. Well, he says he's not for the war in Russia and Ukraine, but like he's still part of the People's Party. So
His
Yeah,
I mean,
actions
yeah,
say otherwise.
yeah.
yeah, and yeah, they're doing some little pro-Russia fascist rally in the libertarians and these fucking sock them fascists, and I'm sure there'll be right wingers there too, and we don't support this fucking campus shit, obviously, and this is all interconnected. This is not irrelevant. This is all interconnected with fascism
Also,
here.
also, also another thing too, because this is coming up almost on the 1 year anniversary. I thought this was supposed to be a special military operation. Like, how long do special
Yeah,
military operations last for over with no
yeah,
end in sight?
yeah, and it was like he's already
And it
sent like
was
over 300K troops and a lot of injuries and casualties.
it's supposed to be a quote unquote denazification of the country, and it's like, um, first of okay, so a couple things. Like, I don't even know where to start with that and where to end. First of all, so they contradict themselves because at the one time they say it's denazification, and then at the other hand they claim it's decommunization of Ukraine because
Yeah,
they absorb it back into Russia. But a couple things. One, I don't trust Russia to quote denazify Ukraine, as evidence shows that's not what they're doing. Two, it's not
Oh,
Russia's
for the love of God, you won't
Russia's
do this to me.
what happened.
Never mind. You were cutting
Oh,
off on my end.
oh,
oh,
sorry.
I could hear Gangroo's fine on my end.
Yeah, sorry.
Well,
I'll speak
it's
up a
like,
bit.
oh God, don't crash. You don't
Yeah,
need to repeat yourself. Just continue where you left off.
yeah. I don't. Russia doesn't have the right to come into Ukraine and quote unquote denazify it.
Yeah,
Three,
Well,
Russia
uh,
needs to denazify Russia. I know this whole thing, and and
I mean,
first of
I
all, the whole
mean,
and honestly, the whole world needs to be denazified at this point. It's the
well,
equivalent
yeah,
of America. It's America coming into Germany and quote denazifying it, in that they
yeah,
literally put the same people back in power. Like, that's
yeah,
literally
and
what Russia's doing.
I mean, Putin literally has handed over all these Azov fighters for like not even for the same amount of POWs. Like he's given up more Nazis over it for like less Russians and for some like oligarch. Like that was all that, and like Dario Dugin was at the Mariupol plant where the Nazis surrendered, and they're gonna pretend they're gonna put him in court. That was all a big lie, and they all swapped them over.
they
Some of them are, yeah, like literally, there's no denazification, and you're all getting played very
they
hard.
they treat these Nazis with kid gloves.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, and
I mean,
and, and think about yeah,
at the end of the day, it's just a continuation of what the U.S. has been doing in terms of domestic policy of supporting radical right wing movements. I mean, go to Syria, it's the same exact story as Ukraine. Now just replace Nazi with ISIS or Al Qaeda, same exact fucking thing. And why is that? Because guess what? The most radical far right are the people that actually fight these wars. The middle class, liberal types, they don't turn out to be the best fighters when it comes to these things. They're the ones that usually flee when the fighting starts.
Isn't it interesting how the refugees that we're supposed to feel sorry for, they're not. They're all middle. They're all fucking petty bourgeois or middle class. They're not fucking poor. Like
Yeah.
they're some of the most vile people.
Yeah. And yeah, and we don't support Wagner. That's a Nazi group. That's a militia. Communists don't support mercenaries. That's insane. And then Max Blumenthal named the Gray Zone, which is like oddly enough, he just changed the letter. Wagner used to own or still owns grayzone.com or whatever. So it's like, it's very suspect. It's just
Yeah.
very obvious who they're pandering to. And then all these Stockton fascists were mostly, these like Tulsi types, they support Russia and all that. And yeah, there's a few Stockton Bernie bros who are on the pro NATO camp. I mean, what can we say? I mean, it's just another side of the imperialist
It's
faction.
yeah, it's just fascists fighting fascists. That's all. That's what this war is. It's like, and Jimmy Dore and Chris Hedges and all these fucking frauds, they support this shit. Oh yeah, Chris Hedges, a supposed anti-fascist, works with literal fascists or advocates we work with literal fascists. Advocates to like freaking do nothingism. Oh, Extinction Rebellion. Let's do that, but let's not actually re- resist the capitalist system. Let's just do a fucking doomed freaking protest that's never going to amount to anything. That's what he actually advocates for.
Yeah, Richard. Yeah, Richard
His
Wolf was
literal the literal thing that Chris Hedges said was literally that quote unquote the left shouldn't lead. They should not take power. What we should do is make the quote unquote elite afraid of us. End quote.
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
that
and
even mean?
yeah, and Richard Wolf is like now promoting like multipolarity and all this.
Yep.
It's like when someone says like that's like, wait, why keep the elite around? Why just fucking shoot them?
Yeah,
It'll solve so much problems. Why do you think fucking freaking Venezuela has so much fucking issues? Because Nicolas Maduro is a fucking trot with no fucking balls. I wish he was a Stalinist. If he
Oh,
was,
oh,
if he was a
oh,
fuck,
but
if he was
yeah,
Stalin, we wouldn't. Venezuela would not be in the sad state that it's in.
oh, but careful there, Dark Sonovia. You're pushing authoritarianism. This might get people scared and middle class people.
and Daniel Ortega is not a socialist. That guy's been a capitalist rotor since the '90s, and it's a very petty bourgeois economy there. So
Oh, but it's like even though Ben Norton is cringe at times, at least he's a little bit better in the gray zone, though that's not really saying much.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, I'm mad at people like Norton and all these like Pedro Castillo supporters still like scapegoating Maoists in 2023 in Peru. And then there's probably some Stockton's doing that shit too. All these people supporting Castillo.
The
It's
only
like,
people you're helping with that is literally the CIA.
it's okay. These people, these social Democrats, they don't want anything but that bigger fucking slice of the imperialist plunder. That's the real reason
exactly.
they are acting as violent as they are. They don't want. It's like they'll even fucking fight a freaking civil war if they want to just to get it, because that's fucking how much these people want to fucking preserve what they already have.
Yeah.
It's like these Bernie. It's funny that the biggest Bernie bros are some of the most reactionary people of the country. In fact, they're more reactionary than Trump supporters in some ways, or
Yeah.
are Trump supporters.
Yeah. A lot of them are just like literally a lot of these people who call themselves populists are like they're literally like red brown alliance types. And there unfortunately there will be like a tiny little Nas Bowl wave again, but luckily, it's not gonna get that big,
Okay,
but
I don't
yeah,
care if people say, "Oh, but Jimmy Dore was right about this one thing and that one thing and that other thing." It's like, as the old saying goes, a broken clock is right at least twice a
yeah,
day. That doesn't
yeah,
mean anything.
yeah, and we know about his sloganeering and all that. The guy doesn't really have principles, and we, probably never even like edits. Yeah, he doesn't produce his own stuff. Let's be honest.
What the reason why he had so many of us fooled because, well, I'm okay. I make it no secret that I'm fucking poor as shit. I make it no secret. Like the amount of money that I fucking make is fucking nothing. Like without my social security, I would not be able to pay my rent. I wouldn't even have a roof over my head if it weren't for my social security because what I get on my job isn't enough, and with my reduced fucking hours, it's even less. Freaking
Yeah.
what the reason why Jimmy Dore spoke to me so is I was struggling when I still am, but at the time that I was starting to listen to him, I was struggling, and having someone who I thought cared about the working class like issues, that's why I listened to him intently and why I supported him because
Yeah.
he spoke to that anger that a lot of fucking people of our generation have.
Yeah,
Yeah, he gave that kind of like righteous indignation to people that were from that. Like he gave with this like blue collar white, this blue collar aesthetic he had of like from Chicago, and he's speaking the truth, man, and and a lot of people,
yeah.
including myself, were like when they heard that they wanted to hear that kind of message basically.
But let's be
Oh,
honest.
and
Let's be honest. Most the black proletariat were not fooled by Jimmy Dore's rhetoric.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And we know that Jimmy doesn't support trans rights, and I even heard Glenn Greenwald's been pushing weird, that type of reactionary crap
Yeah.
too. And
It's only a
um,
matter of time before Jimmy Dore pushes the JQ if he hasn't already.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
I mean,
and we know,
didn't he mention George Soros before? So I think he probably already has.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, and then we know about what's the other person's name? Oh yeah, Matt Taibbi being connected to the Nosballs and Edward Lemonov, and Matt Taibbi literally being anti-USSR. The
He's
guy's
lit.
fascist.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like now a spokesperson for Elon Musk.
It's like,
Yeah,
it's like
literally.
yeah, Elon Musk, the guy that supported the coup in Bolivia, who said we can
Yeah.
coup whoever we want.
Yeah, not only is he like a spokesman, he literally admitted that like, yeah, I'm gonna break my own journalist ethics. I'm gonna let Elon Musk decide, what can be released. Like complete fucking like
Wait,
fascist cuck.
wait, what fucking ethics? He has none.
Right. But like the fact he even said that word or phrase, I saw the tweet, I think. Yeah.
It's
It's
like
like wow.
he makes a mockery of ethics.
And I know, yeah, and I know that fucking Taibbi promotes shorts and neats, and it's like, oh god, it's
Jesus.
just,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get set up a bonfire for. Let's see. I got at least one Caleb book. I got one Matt Taibbi book, and I think I got at least two Chris Hedges books, and
I don't
all of them
physically
are.
own. I never physically own any Chris Hedges book. I listen to them all on Audible.
And it's
I have Hedge stuff on digital. Unfortunately, I do have that stupid bread tube book and paper because that was the
yeah.
only way. But now I'm gonna burn it because there's an archive for it.
Okay. For Chris Hedges' book, I exchanged all of the books on Audible except one because by the time I knew about that feature on Audible, it was way too late.
Yeah, and what's it called? I mean, there's probably a few other stock thems like Joanna, Bree, and all these
Oh,
other ones.
Stone wants to be part of the stream. Let's let him on.
Welcome.
Uh,
What's up?
not much.
We're just talking about Jimmy Dore being the sellout as he is, and along with with social democrats as a whole. I'd actually be resting now, but it would be negligent not talking about this, considering what's recently came out in an article.
Yeah, I haven't fully read the article yet, though.
I have.
Yeah, I did too. And for the recap on that, I mean, Jimmy Dore has these absurd, abusive, like contracts for his employees. That help him write this stupid show, and all that. Like literally, he has like clauses where like if you violate like a single part of the NDA, it's gonna be like a $10,000 fine, giving up your rights to go to a jury. If arbitration fails, basically the contract affirms union busting. Like it's like a contract where like Jimmy really just like dictates a lot. And we know about all his stupid misinformation shows, and he even tried blaming staff for one of his stupid failed misinformation episodes. He basically just like blamed it all on one employee.
Yeah, you know about when he fired his fucking cameraman. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically what happened was his cameraman objected to him, and then like it made him look like the fraud he is. So he fired the cameraman, and then fucking made this like hit piece like on the cameraman, slandering him as some fucking
Yeah.
waste man. And like so like fucking Dore as well exploited the fears of disabled and colonized peoples during the coronavirus. So you have a mass pandemic. There's a lot of evidence that shows the US was behind it occurring. And then there's a mass vaccine campaign, which is important, and people should take the vaccine. But when you then have like people like Jimmy Dore stressing on our history of being fucking forced sterilized and other horrible shit with vaccines,
Yeah.
you look at it and you're like, well, I know that the healthcare system is still quite that eugenic, so it's not beyond them. And actually, there was some problems that come with the way people were being treated. The myocarditis that Jimmy tried to scaremonger people with was actually not being caused because of the vaccine being bad. It was caused because the vaccine was being misinjected. And because of how high the misinjection rate was, it's beyond the point of accident at this point. Like you can't be like the UK, Canada, and America had the highest misinjected vaccine rate, where they were injecting a muscular vaccine into the vascular system, which is a quick way for heart problems. But that basically it's a nice cheap way for people to push their bullshit, is to exploit the experiences, the history of minority groups. It's an easy way to push your bullshit. Fascists do it a lot themselves. What's it? You could use the example of the Nazis being like pro-homosexual until like the fucking early 30s, or was I think it was early 30s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't say pro, but like Hitler was okay with it at one point. There's a quote from him where he says, "I don't care if you're fucking a man or a woman, just it's one of them. Like you can find it everywhere, and it's exploitation. They don't care for these things.
Yeah,
They don't.
It's like when the Nazis like to bring up Lemonov being bi or whatever. It's like, we know what they're doing, and
Yeah, it's virtue signaling. That's the term.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore has these abusive contracts. I hope more comes out. I hope all his employers get out of that situation. Employees, I mean.
Well, you got to think about how many of them might be on the same wavelength as him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy represents a voice that exists in America, and it's petty bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
You can see that with his constant "let's just be the Democrats 2.0" bullshit.
Yeah.
While also siding with MAGA communists.
Yeah, and what's it called? Jimmy Dore was out there before attacking like Trump for the NDAs. And then this is a guy who has like Richard Wolff on still, and Hedges, etc. So like obviously Wolff is a fucking distorter, and not even in ML, literally.
Well, speaking of that, Like, I don't fucking care if he quoted Lenin a few times. He's not a fucking Marxist.
Right.
I mean, what he is he's a neo-Marxist, essentially. Where everything's gutted. At least he's a little more like the system actually has to change, which is a step ahead of most neo-Marxists. But the bar has been set so low that it's nothing.
Yeah.
What's it? If anything proves that fucking prestige is a point of experience, a point of struggle, and doesn't come from people themselves, the whole great man theory stuff. Richard Wolff is a descendant of Karl Marx. Like, so if anything's going to wash up the silly mindset people have in the first world of this great leader, that great leader, and their fucking entourage and ability to do things. Like, these things don't get passed on. They don't get passed down. That's a point of experience. So if you ever want to respect Marx, Lenin, or any of these other people, you can't look at Lenin, the great man. You have to look at Lenin, the principled comrade, the experienced comrade, and look at his experiences and learn from that basis. Everyone has this mentality of fucking Kaiserism that's ingrained in them that no one is critiquing because it's so normalized. So they just allow it to fly by, and they wouldn't even call it Kaiserism in their own right. It leads to hero worship.
Yeah, absolutely. It leads to great man theory. It leads to Kaiserism.
Well, if there's one thing I will give props to one of my favorite science fiction authors. Frank Hubert rejected this concept of the great man theory and critiqued it in his series of novels by basically showing the consequences of what those kind of figures would have on the world at large. And one quote that stuck with me is when one of the characters say, "Beware of a hero."
Yeah, I think also in another science, I think in also Dune as well, they also did a critique of great man theory with Paul as well.
Well, why is this relevant to what we're talking about? Because, like, this is exactly what a lot of, and this is a critique. You weren't here, Stone, when we talked about like this, but me and Gangeros criticized ourselves because of our whiteness for
Same
why
here.
we weren't able to see through Jimmy Dore sooner, while everyone else obviously saw through him quicker than we did, and that is a failure we have to own up to.
Yeah, I already had to fucking do that and apologize to comrades who saw it quicker than I did.
And
Yeah,
I also brought this up too, that there's a reason why people of the African diaspora and indigenous are wary of white people, even whites leftists especially, because they have too many experiences and too many times of backstabbing for us to be trusted. And I think we have to earn their trust by doing things for our own communities first.
Yeah, I mean it's it's not just about the doing things to our own communities. So the Black Red God's made some good points on how like white people fucking don't even do shit for their own community. So how can they offer to anyone else's? So it is an important part of it. But the facet of that needs to be importantly noted. It's not just about with the white community. It's not just about the organizing of the programs and all that. Similarly to in a reflection to what the black community has to deal with, because the black community doesn't just have organizing on the basis of poverty, they also have to organize on the basis of police violence and against it. We have to do the same. At the end of the day, you go in America, those police officers that are massacring black people go home to white suburbs every fucking day. And those white people are allowed to just walk in and go home.
Yeah, and we know that Jimmy Dore's dad was a cop, and then now a lot of these victims are outright supporting police now. Yeah.
Well, there was a customer at my work today that openly flew a pro cop flag out in the open in the parking lot. I mean, you could see. I mean, you could literally see the picture of it in our Discord.
Yeah, it's like the newer version with like a blue, red, black scheme, I guess. Yeah, there's also people who put, the flag upside down, which is a symbol of distress, so called, and all that.
what's it? The fucking yeah, no, what's it?
Oh, oh, okay, all right. Sorry about. I don't know
Fucking
what happened.
city software. Trying to get back off the chat and it fucking yeeted
StreamYard
me.
is so shitty.
But the fucking is the so these fucking people, you know, because with lower class people, you're anti-cop fucking all the time. There's rare situations that you'll ever fucking involve yourself with anything to do with those stingy fucking bastards. And usually that's because you have no other fucking choice. With middle class people, when they are anti-cop, it is at the point of specific protests, and they're only really against the cops when they're in their uniform. As soon as the cop is off duty, it's completely fine with them. These people are massacring people, and we literally watched on video all of the cops enjoying themselves with big smiles on their faces, beating the shit out of people when the anti-police protests were going on, tear gassing people who weren't even protesting, killing old men just by pushing them on the floor and smashing their head open, going out of their way to cause as many people problems, seeing a black couple driving in their car, not even involved in the protest, and terrorize them, forcing them to open their window and door and get tased.
We
And
still got issues here where I guess every week there's a fucking cop killing somebody's pets because, you know, they're a bunch of fucking scumbags. Like, literally, that's like a common thing now. So, you know, killing
yeah, don't
humans
shoot
and
the dog.
It's one of the reasons why I don't let my pets outside, except for if I'm walking them or something. I don't trust these fucking people.
right.
Even if you're with them, they're not safe.
It's like I've had a fear of cops even as a kid because one time when there was cops in my house, I was afraid, you know, a cop would shoot my dog.
Yeah, even up to this day, like when I see these fucking SUV armored black window cop cars and over, you know, I don't want to dox
Fucking
myself, but
gangsters.
Yeah.
That's what they seem like.
yeah, literally, and they're like driving fast, and they got the huge lights, and some of these cars even have like cop cars have like the American flag with like the eagle and shit painted on the doors, and it's
I've
like,
actually got the perfect fucking lyrics for this. 1 second, let me get them up.
Ignore this fascist. Like he's fucking like trolling us.
Dead
Don't acknowledge that.
is that in the chat?
Kennedy's police truck. I know, I want the fucking lyrics. There we go. Alright then. Tonight's the night that we got the truck. We're going downtown, gonna beat up drunks. Your turn to drive, I'll bring the beer. It's an easy shift, no one to fear. Let's ride, ride, how we ride. Let's ride, low ride. It's roundup time where the god whores meet. We're gonna drag on, screaming off the street. Let's ride, ride, how we ride. Got a black uniform and silver badge. Playing cops for real, playing cops for pay. Pull down your dress is a kick in the ass. Let's beat you blue till you shit your pants. Don't move, child. I got a big black.
Is that it?
Cut out.
Just making sure I'm not interrupting her.
It's a song about police officers doing the police stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to know something? This is no secret for those who know. I've been having difficulties with my job. When I took a anti-cop stance at the workplace, they gradually, I lost favor with everyone of the people of the management, to the point where like they will constantly fucking make me uncomfortable whatever chance they get. Like anything that they used to do for me, they don't do anymore. Did you know they used to give me free haircuts before like this happened? Even
The fuck?
Jeez.
What kind of a deal is that?
okay, well that's not the only. Well, there was people that actually did generally. I was generally cool with, but when those people left, like everything's changed. Like they know I'm anti-cop. They know this. It wasn't the first. The only thing I said is who cares? Because what made me angry about, even though I don't think I should have done it because where I was at, but you gotta understand when you're exposed to footage after footage of cops killing people for fun or shooting people and laughing about it, and I hear someone say how difficult it is to be a cop, I just lost it.
It's worse than them doing it for fun. They are actually trained that they are warrior guardians that are protecting the land. They're enjoying it not because they're doing it for fun. They might find it fun. They're enjoying it because they're getting a euphoria as the brutal oppressor that keeps everything in line. They hold the line. They keep things together. And they get all
Yeah.
that smoke pumped up their ass for it. There's an actual thing called warrior training that they get. Even states have tried to stop it. And when they've tried to cut the funding for the warrior training, all the warrior training people have done is gone and give it to that state for free.
You know what's even worse about my job is, of course, every chance they got, they called the cops on homeless people.
Wow.
It's like it's like the entire management is fucking disgusting to me. It's like the whole me being anti-cop. It's the whole reason why I am where I'm at. Like things that I usually did good with in my reviews, is completely ignored. I decided to say openly cops were fascists. And I said all cops were fascists. I didn't say some. I said all, and I do stand by all of them are.
Well, yeah, the institution of the police was a fucking fascist institution. It's an institution that erodes away people's labor power, a part of the political power in society. And the whole purpose of it is to keep a boot over the proletarian's head. You could argue that the police was a proto-fascistic policy, something that is right up their lines of Napoleon III-esque Bonapartism. But the police system as well is specifically based off of the colonial garrisons that were used to protect private property out in the colonies. So the whole way the model operates is completely off of the basis of dictatorial, brutal oppression of others. And that's the whole purpose of it. And so, like, the police system in capitalism exists as a beast that either in times of relative calmness only really has its boot on the lower classes' heads, on the proletariat and the lumpen proletariat, and even really a good chunk of the proletariat aren't so much just dealing with it. When things start to deteriorate, then the system gets worried and has to keep everything in line. They have to try and get everyone behind some form of fascism, whether it is autocracy within the bureaucratic elements of the system itself, i.e. what I mean is fascism without the charismatic leader model, or whether it is fascism with the charismatic leader as the embodiment of it. Regardless of how the throne is centralized with this fucking kingdom come bullshit of fascism, where they like their little command control society, the end of the fucking day, the police state is going to increase how it is involving itself with the other classes in society to keep people in line.
Think about it like the way the Nazi police state worked. The Nazi police state is one of the most intricate police states to have ever existed. For its era, I must put that point in. For its era.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's Britain, America, and China. Those three countries are the most intricate police states in the world ever to exist. And so when you put that point out there and you look at the way that the system is going, liberalism is a croaky mess that's just about existing around. And conservatism is in such a crumble itself. I mean, conservative liberalism, like the normal shit you normally expect from conservatives, it's in such a crumble that they are like, they are already moving to fascism, like already. There's already a lot of heavy involvement with conservatives and the Duganites. And then, like, when you look at the fact that the traditional, like, Mussoliniite fascists and the Mosleyites are all into Dugan as well.
Rengunan, all that too.
Grenon's not so important to the Mosleyites. Like, they only like Dugan for his accessibility to Russia. But with the Mosleyites and the Mussoliniites. So a big thing to note is that, like, Evola's spiritualism was always a massive turnoff for people like Mussolini and Mosley. They were a little more grounded than Evola or fucking Hitler, because Hitler was also a fucking proper kook. I mean, Evola commented about it in that quote you sent me. You know, when Evola's commenting about the Saxon warrior that fucking Hitler is. Yeah, that's the same warrior that Hitler goes, I am possessed by the spirit of an Aryan warrior to Mussolini. It's just Willikund, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to bring it back to the whole cop thing, I think one of the big problems is we need to get it out of people's heads that, quote unquote, the cops are there to, quote, protect us. It's like, oh my God, nothing could be further from the fucking truth.
Abolish cops.
Like, literally.
I got a rhetorical question. Who is the bad guy in Terminator 2?
Well, the police officer.
Haven't seen it.
Okay, I asked a rhetorical question because this was delivered on James Cameron's part. Why did the T-1000 take the form of a cop? He could have taken the form of anyone, but why a cop?
Because it was expressing the fact that they can completely... a cop has the complete advantage of power when it comes to trying to hunt someone down.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, I know what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Exactly because cops, they see the way they act towards the people that they oppress. It's a power trip to them.
Yeah, it is.
And don't forget, they get trained by Israel. Certain departments do.
Yeah, that's true. And I'd also argue that there was a huge police state under, under that fascist Nicholas in that time. I forget the name of the Tsar police, but
I'm butchering that name like hell. Ukranich
Ukranich. The Ukraine.
I'd have to look it up. Like, I've butchered these names before. I think at one point I was talking with my brother and I said the Churka, and he's like, "You're really butchering the name of the police force there with that one." But,
I
mean, they're piggies. It doesn't matter.
Another thing I find very interesting, even if this isn't off topic, isn't it funny that those who push actually existing socialism are all anti-Semitic?
Well, what's it? I mean, if you're a fan of fucking Khrushchev or Brezhnev, you are an anti-Semite. Like, already that's unquestionable. Like, Brezhnev and Khrushchev were rampantly anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the reason I bring this up because speaking of Khrushchev, why is the Khrushchev and Brezhnev era nowhere near as documented by these so-called historians as much as Stalin? We all know the question, but I'm asking rhetorically. I brought this up in the last stream, but considering I was by myself, basically ranting like a lunatic because of how about angry about fascists.
You would be completely unsurprised to know that when it comes to the revisionist era of the Soviet Union, it's a lot harder to get a hold of archive information. There is a lot that exists that has been released, but there's a lot they don't want people to see. It's kind of like how a lot of stuff from the Stalin era has been released in the Soviet archives, except the stuff on the Yezovshchina, the Great Purge.
Well, I brought this up because it seemed like they don't really have as much of they don't have really that many issues with the Soviet Union post Stalin. That's basically what I'm trying to bring up. I just find that
I mean,
interesting.
kind of. I mean, it
Well,
depends on how you look at it.
Well, they were a
Because-
rival, obviously. Of course, that's obvious. They were a rival, and yeah.
So, like, put it this way: they did quote stuff from that era, but not in the way you might think. So, like Robert Conquest, MI6 agent, he absolutely cummed himself when Khrushchev started making up all the lies about Stalin to fuck up his name. Because he's like, yo, this shit isn't even true, but Khrushchev, he just got him wrote us like 7 books already. You're giving us the premise. We just need to go write them. Like, it managed to allow them to quote primary sources from the Soviet Union to make up lies. Because the fucking Khrushchevites had just gone and fucking, ironically enough, like fucking, just completely throw everything under the bus.
Yeah.
Khrushchev is basically the best friend of any of these right-wing historians.
Yeah, and only Khrushchevites and Trots and Brezhnevites support the idea of having cops in socialist society. So yeah.
What's now back to this Jimmy Dore thing, because whatever if we still want or whatever, like
Dorothy.
or just their supporters, their politics have not really evolved since.
It's regressed.
Regressed.
Yeah.
I don't mean evolve, and that's not what I mean by evolve. I'm referring to they're still stuck at a certain in 16. That was basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Or in 2018, whatever years that the squad was elected, I don't even care.
Saying that something hasn't evolved would be the same as saying that. So, like, evolve as a statement of development existed like hundreds of years before Darwin was even born.
Yeah.
A lot of people get confused and think, oh, you can't use evolution in a non-biological context. And anyone who says that should be hit with a non-biological context because they don't know the meaning of the word. That's what they think. But he has developed. He has changed. If anything, since 2016, he has become more openly right wing.
Yeah.
I was actually referring to his supporters, actually, not Jimmy Dore himself.
Oh, well, I mean, fucking his supporters have developed in the sense that now it's gone from like, oh, he has some left-wingers liking him. And back in 2016, some communists liking him and thinking, oh, he may be a bit liberal, but maybe in a few years' time he might develop somewhere. To now, where there's like no communists other than maybe some fucking morons who really need to wake the fuck up. And then there's like libertarians, Dengists, MAGA communists, Z posters, Nazbols, literal fascists, a lot of literal fascists. I'm pretty sure Richard Spencer likes fucking Dore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was always the excuse that they would always give. It would always be like, guys, he's learning. You got to give him some slack. He's learning. He's getting used to it.
I'm sorry,
Just
but
Do you know what it was
just
that
send
fucked
him a
with
few
people?
books.
The guy fucking pulled out like Lenin's collected works one time to show something he
Yeah.
started reading, and it was like, yo, maybe he could develop, and these things take some time to kindle. No,
Yeah,
because
I felt for that too.
what's it? It's actually quite likely that he was already speaking to people like the Morpinites behind the scenes at this point. Like,
Yep.
I think he already had Michael Hudson on, and Hudson's been
well,
making rounds around the
honestly,
sock.
oh, isn't Hudson a
crowd.
trap?
Yep.
Yeah,
okay. Honestly, I'm just gonna say this. I'd be more charitable to someone who's in the low who is like in the work who is like in the lower working class who is actually struggling to make ends meet, that they're just learning and they're just trying to actually learn. I'll give them more credit than I would give to some privileged fuck who is a multimillionaire. I mean, come on.
yeah.
He's a multi-millionaire. What?
Jimmy Dore's house is over 2 million, if I remember correctly.
But
Really?
he's a champion of the
Yeah,
working class, folks. He's a champion of the
yeah,
working class. Did you
and
know?
yeah, and Jimmy Dore's dad is still, well, was a cop, but still is one really. But yeah,
One's a cop, always a cop.
yeah.
Who's to say that Jimmy Dore is an undercover cop? I know this is not true, but I'm just saying rhetorically.
Why is
Yeah,
it with the Yanks? Everyone's an undercover cop. Everyone's a State Department asset. Like, fuck me. America has fucked y'all up.
You want to think that's good. At least that's really good. That Abby Martin and Immortal Technique brought up in their most recent interview. They talked about how a lot of legitimate issues that are that should be discussed cannot. It's difficult to discuss them because the right have basically co-opted and made it and made it so it's dismissed as a conspiracy theory.
So one great example of that, because I know, I this is a big topic, and of the right wing that has made it to the point where you can't even bring up his name anymore. It's literally they've just used it so much as an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Is George Soros, and I
yeah,
mean George Soros as an actual person is a monster. He's is he a millionaire or a billionaire or something like that? But the point of the matter is, I think he's a billionaire. But either way,
yeah,
from what I can remember when I was looking up that period in Eastern Europe in the 1990s when they were privatizing a lot of things, selling things off, and doing other things. George Soros basically was the Koch brothers for basically Russia and pretty much all of Eastern Europe. And this is just an undisputable fact. It's been documented, well proven that he was, plundering, all these countries as they were being, fully integrated into, with a, European capitalist system. And you can't even bring George Soros up anymore because he's just been so turned into this fucking lizard
yeah.
boogeyman shooting lasers out of his eye, Jewish conspiracy now. It's
You can't even talk
Yeah.
about COVID either, or the mishandling of it, how various governments throughout the world, deliberately let the elderly and the disabled die of COVID because that's dismissed as a conspiracy theory.
yeah. I mean, it's like in New York City where thousands of elderly people were killed because it was.
Yeah, and we know that DeSantis was tampering with the COVID testing results and stuff like that, and fired people who were blowing the whistle, and yeah,
Let's not even talk about the mass graves in New York.
Yeah,
right.
I still stand by that. I think that there's too many people in the United States have died already.
I mean,
Like
it's already it's already confirmed over 630,000 in 3 years. That's like a 9/11 every day since 2020.
and it's gonna bump up too because of China, probably by spring or
China.
Yeah, they're gonna because they decided to undo their COVID policies because the petty bourgeoisie usurped some protests that were demanding worker protections and other such things. And they decided, oh, this is a good time to come in and completely undo all these COVID policies that we were planning for months on end.
Well,
Let a good racist go to race.
well, I'm just saying that. Okay, the reason I bring up Immortal Technique and Abby Martin because these people have a lot of the people they used to work with or talk to are their ideological enemies now. A majority of them.
Yeah, and while I'm still mad at Ben Norton over some stuff, like we know that he got basically blacklisted by the sock dams, and
Well,
yeah, they do this thing where like if you don't meet their new standard of the latest so-called populist slash fascist crap, you won't be in there basically.
I don't think Ben Norton is fucking anything to write home about. The guy is a literal apologist for fucking Russia and China.
Yeah, Nicaragua. Well, apologists for Daniel Ortega, who's ex-socialist. Yeah.
It's just honestly, even though she isn't perfect, Abby Martin's one of the few people that I think that have any fucking integrity. Because unlike these people, she actually risked her life to make the movie on Gaza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
she called out Russia when she was working at that station, and she never got rehired.
She did it live.
Yeah.
And that's got to take some serious, as somebody who has serious stage fright and couldn't even openly speak. I couldn't even speak in public openly until I was well into like my adult years. I can tell you just how hard that would be to do that in front of literally thousands of people on a television show.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had some speech therapy as well. And yeah, it's all the and obviously we know about Glenn Greenwald and doing his like neutral / pro Bolsonaro kind of and all this.
Isn't Abby?
Glenn Greenwald is a fascist little wank stain.
Isn't Jimmy Dore writing a book? At least I think, or is that just a?
Oh God, no! But it's Bernie's. Bernie's already selling his stupid fucking piece of shit book, and that's why it's been saying that anybody following him is in a fascist cult.
Michael Parenti, despite some issues I may have with him, was right to fucking cut that fucker off.
Yeah, he was one of the earliest ones that I could think of for sure. Yeah,
and I gotta bring this up again. Michael Parenti, before he lost his mind because of dementia, he didn't believe in actually existing socialism. Black shirts and reds, he basically says it pretty clearly that these countries are no longer socialist or are losing their socialism.
Mm-hmm.
And that, one thing that's interesting, this dangus on Twitter basically criticized Michael Parenti for saying that he's right about everything except China and Vietnam and Cuba no longer being socialist. Like, wait, what?
Jeez.
This guy doesn't believe in actually existing socialism, which is fucking a fact. There is no socialist countries in this fucking world. At best, they're social democracies. At worst, they're borderline fascists. If not outright fascists. Oh my god! The Maoists is calling everything fascist. Like, no, I'm just pointing out what we've been seeing. If there is, why do all these supposed socialist countries? Why do they bootlick for China or Russia or the United States?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and obviously they're all these fascist sock dams. They're going to continue in this trajectory. And I know we already mentioned Bill Maher and his shit jumping on that wagon. Fascist piece of shit. Completely ever regret ever liking him. Like I already knew that years ago he was
I got a
fascist, but
question. Is there any way
I
you can quote Stalin's, at least the best part of Stalin's work, when he talks about, I think we should quote like one of his works where he says social democracy is the moderate wing of fascism.
I'm going to in a moment. Just let me make my mash. I'll be 2 minutes. I was literally already planning to do that.
Oh, I was actually gonna ask Noob to do that, but if you want to do that, Stone, go ahead.
Nice. I think the thing that like really turned me against Bill Maher is when he started pushing this whole anti-trans thing.
Wait,
Which
what?
honestly-
Yeah.
Wait, what? It was
Yes.
I turned on
yes.
Bill Maher when I fucking got on my edgy new atheist phase because of his because the guy is a doesn't support the Palestinians' right to self-determination. That's what did it for me. That was
I learned
years
that,
before he did that.
I learned that on the video later on when I saw some videos critiquing all the petty bourgeois new atheists who were neocons. But yeah, and what's it called? Yeah, and Bill Maher did. Obviously, I mentioned that Bill Maher was attacking Maoists and Leninists in a 7-minute rant and saying they gotta be re-educated and that's what he did recently. And
It's obviously advocating for fucking rounding up fucking people that disagree with the status quo. That totally
yeah,
isn't fascist.
I gotta make a funny note. The government, and these big celebrities, you hear them mention the problems of Maoists, the problems of anarchists. You don't really hear too much about the problems of Marxist Leninists. What are you guys doing? Are you guys okay? You need help?
I'm calling it. I would not be shocked if Jimmy Dore shows up on Bill Maher's show. I'm calling it.
and
It's gonna
we
happen.
are. Yeah, Maher was already on Rogan and all that shit, so it's happening.
In fact,
yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he shows up on the Daily Wire.
Shoot.
Jimmy or Caleb or both.
Both.
they're
It
the
doesn't
same
matter.
person.
Yeah,
I've-
Greenwald.
I haven't
Okay.
seen them in the same room together.
This is a long quote, so be prepared.
All right.
This is from Concerning the International Situation, Joseph Stalin, published in 1924. In characterizing the present international situation, I think that there is no need to take into account all the facts of some degree of importance, absolutely all the specific features of the present state of international affairs. For this purpose, it is sufficient to take into account only the principal decisive factors in the present situation at the present time. There are, in my opinion, 3 such factors. A, the opening of an quote-unquote era of bourgeois democratic quote-unquote pacifism. B, the intervention of America in European affairs and the Entente's
Stone? I think you cut off.
What do you mean?
You stopped. I didn't hear the rest of what you just said.
Why the fuck? It cuts me out when I go into a different fucking thing. Like, 1 second. Cut. Actually, I'll do it in a new tab group because it might still be a cunt about it. Where's a link?
Take your time. I'm in no hurry. I'm tired as hell, but I'm sure as hell motivated to talk about this serious topic. That's the main reason I'm able to hold off sleeping.
Okay, my audio's still working, right?
I can hear you just fine.
Yep.
Okay, where did it cut off?
I heard detente, and then
You were talking about
that's
America and Daytona.
Okay. America in European Affairs and the Entente's London Agreement on Reparations. C. The strengthening of left-wing elements in the European labor movement and the growth of the international weight and prestige of the Soviet Union. Let us examine these principal factors. 1. The period of bourgeois democratic quote-unquote pacifism. The Entente has proved incapable of coping with the results of its war victories. It fully succeeded in defeating Germany and in encircling the Soviet Union. It also succeeded in drawing up a plan for plundering Europe. This is shown by the innumerable conferences and treaties of the Entente countries. But it has proved incapable of carrying out that plan of plunder. Why? Because the contradictions between the countries in the Entente are too great. Because they have not succeeded and will not succeed in reaching agreement on sharing the loot, because the resistance of the countries to be plundered is growing stronger and stronger. Because the implementation of the plan of plunder is fraught with military conflicts and the masses do not want to fight, it is now obvious to, quote, everyone, end quote, that the imperialist frontal attack on the Ruhr with the object of annihilating Germany was proved to be dangerous for imperialism itself. It is also obvious that the undisguised imperialist policy of ultimatums with the object of isolating the Soviet Union is merely producing results opposite to those intended. A situation was created in which Poincaré and Curzon, while faithfully and loyally serving imperialism, nevertheless, by their quote-unquote work, intensified the growing crisis in Europe, aroused the resistance of the masses to imperialism, and pushed the masses towards revolution. Hence, the bourgeoisie's inevitable transition from the policy of frontal attack to the policy of compromise, from undisguised to disguised imperialism, from Poincaré and Curzon to MacDonald and Heriot. Naked plundering of the world has become dangerous. The Labour Party in Britain and the left bloc in France are to serve as a cloak to cover the nakedness of imperialism. That is the origin of quote-unquote pacifism and quote-unquote democracy. Some people think that the bourgeoisie adopted quote-unquote pacifism and quote-unquote democracy not because it was compelled to do so, but voluntarily, of its own free choice, so to speak. And it is assumed that having defeated the working class in decisive battles, Italy and Germany, the bourgeoisie felt that it was the victor and could now afford to adopt quote-unquote democracy. In other words, while the decisive battles were in progress, the bourgeoisie needed a fighting organization, needed fascism. But now that the proletariat is defeated, the bourgeoisie no longer needs fascism and can afford to use quote-unquote democracy instead as a meta method of consolidating its victory. Hence the conclusion is to draw on that the rule of the bourgeoisie has become consolidated and the quote era of pacifism end quote will be a prolonged one, and that the revolution in Europe has been pigeonholed. This assumption is absolutely wrong. Firstly, it is not true that fascism is only the fighting organization of the bourgeoisie. Fascism is not only a military technical category. Fascism is the bourgeoisie's fighting organization that relies on the active support of social democracy. Social democracy is objectively the moderate wing of fascism. There is no ground for assuming that the fighting organization of the bourgeoisie can achieve decisive successes in battles or in governing the country without the active support of social democracy. There is just as little ground for thinking that social democracy can achieve decisive successes in battles or in governing the country without the active support of the fighting organizations of the bourgeoisie. These organizations do not negate but supplement each other. They are not antipodes, but they are twins. Fascism is an informal political bloc of these two chief organizations, a bloc which has arose in the circumstances of the post-war crisis of imperialism, and which is intended for combating the proletarian revolution. The bourgeoisie cannot retain power without such a bloc. It would therefore be a mistake to think quote-unquote pacifism signifies the liquidation signifies the liquidation of fascism. In the present situation, quote-unquote pacifism is the strengthening of fascism, with its moderate social democratic wing pushed into the forefront. Secondly, it is not true that the decisive battles have already been fought, that the proletariat was defeated in these battles, and that the bourgeoisie's rule has been consolidated as a consequence. There have been no decisive battles as of yet, if only for the reason that there have not been any mass, genuinely Bolshevik parties capable of leading the proletariat to dictatorship. Without such parties, decisive battles for dictatorship are impossible under the conditions of imperialism. The decisive battles in the West still lie ahead. There have been only the first series of attacks, which were repulsed by the bourgeoisie. The first serious trial of strength which showed that the proletariat is not yet strong enough to overthrow the bourgeoisie, but that the bourgeoisie is already unable to discount the proletariat. And precisely because the bourgeoisie is already unable to force the working class to its knees, it was compelled to renounce frontal attacks, to make a detour, agree to a compromise, to resort to democratic pacifism in quotation marks. Lastly, it is also not true that pacifism is a sign of the strength and not of the weakness of the bourgeoisie, that quote-unquote pacifism should result in consolidating the power of the bourgeoisie and in postponing the revolution for an indefinite period. Present-day pacifism signifies the advent to power, direct or indirect, of the parties of the Second International. But what does the advent to power of the parties of the Second International mean? It means their inevitable self-exposure as lackeys of imperialism, as traitors to the proletariat. For the governmental activity of these parties can have only one result: their political bankruptcy, the growth of contradictions within these parties, their disintegration, their decay. But the disintegration of these parties will inevitably lead to the disintegration of the rule of the bourgeoisie. For the parties of the Second International are props of imperialism. Would the bourgeoisie have undertaken this risky experiment with pacifism if it had not been compelled to do so? Would it have done so of its own free will? Of course not. This is the second time that the bourgeoisie is undertaking the experiment with pacifism since the end of the imperialist war. This first experiment was made immediately after the war, when it seemed that revolution was knocking on the door. The second experiment is being undertaken now. After Poincare's and Curzon's risky experiments, who would dare deny that imperialism will have to pay dearly for this swinging of the bourgeoisie from pacifism to rabid imperialism and back again? That this is pushing vast masses of workers out of their habitual Philistine route? That it is drawing the most backward sections of the proletariat into politics and is helping to revolutionize them? Of course, quote-unquote democratic pacifism is not yet the Kerensky regime. For the Kerensky regime implies dual power, the collapse of bourgeois power and the coming into being of the foundations of proletarian power. But there can scarcely be any doubt that pacifism signifies the immense awakening of the masses, the fact that the masses are being drawn into politics, that pacifism is shaking bourgeois rule and preparing the ground for revolutionary upheavals. And precisely for this reason, pacifism is bound to lead not to the strengthening, but to the weakening of bourgeois rule, not to the postponement of the revolution for an indefinite period, but to its acceleration. It does not, of course, follow that pacifism is not a serious danger to the revolution. Pacifism serves to snap the foundations of bourgeois rule. It is creating favorable conditions for the revolution, but it can have these results only against the will of all the pacifists and Democrats themselves. Only if the Communist Party vigorously expose the imperialist and counter-revolutionary nature of the pacifist democratic rule of Harriet and MacDonald, As for what the pacifists and Democrats want is for the policy of the imperialists, that they have only one aim in resorting to pacifism, to dupe the masses with high-sounding praises about peace. High-sounding phrases about peace in order to prepare for a new war, to dazzle the masses with the brilliance of democracy in order to consolidate the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, to stun the masses with clamor about the quote-unquote sovereign rights of nations and states in order the more successfully to prepare for intervention in China, for slaughter in Afghanistan and in the Sudan, for the dismemberment of Persia, to fool the masses with highfalutin talk about quote-unquote friendly relations with the Soviet Union and various quote-unquote treaties with the Soviet government in order to establish still closer relations with the counter-revolutionary conspirators who have been kicked out of Russia, with the aim of bandit operations in Belarusia, the Ukraine, and Georgia. The bourgeoisie needs pacifism as a camouflage. This is in 1924, so yeah, this is just as the Soviet Union come up, so things are a bit turmoilist. This camouflage constitutes the chief danger of pacifism. Whether the bourgeoisie will succeed in its aims of fooling the people depends upon the vigor with which the communist parties in the West and in the East expose the bourgeoisie upon their ability to tear the mask from the imperialists in pacifist clothing. There is no doubt that the events and practice will work in the favor of the communists in this respect by exposing the discrepancy between the pacifist words and the imperialist deeds of the democratic servitors of capital. It is the duty of the communists to keep the pace with the events and ruthlessly to expose every step, every act of service to imperialism and betrayal of the proletariat committed by the parties of the Second International. Told you it was a long quote.
Well,
Very nice, very nice.
you know, it's aged like fine wine, I'm not going to lie, because everything Stalin said is fucking true today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really sad
I'm
how
gonna-
little has changed.
It's
I'm
actually
gonna
true of what
take-
happened back then, because the vigor of those communist parties was not there, and the West did not succeed in pushing forth revolution.
I like the quote about it's just the first of a series of attacks.
Well, what I meant to say is, for the most part, it's aged pretty well. I mean, a lot of it could still apply today.
Yeah. Just take the Entente and compare it now to like NATO or Russia or China.
It's just really
Well, the
sad.
Entente bit doesn't come into that one. Those bullet points were the chapters. I haven't actually read the Entente bit. That's the next chapter.
Well, it's just what's really sad is how little has changed since that time. I mean, of course, things have changed, but you know what I mean when I said it's how little.
Marx said this: history tends to repeat itself. First is tragedy, then it's farce. Or is it first it's farce, then it's tragedy? I don't know. Either one's pretty bad.
We're in farce. We've gone well beyond farce at this point. We've got into like
And what Stalin said about social democrats in his time is true today. Like, it's almost 100 years ago that he fucking said this.
Yeah.
even more true today, honestly. Social Democrats are even worse now than they were.
Absolutely.
They're just trying to fight for what breadcrumbs that remains because, you know, their resources are dwindling and they're just trying to fight with little breadcrumbs that's left. That's the whole reason that they want this crap to begin with. They just want to keep their part of the imperialist pie.
Yeah,
there's there's no markets. There's no more big markets for them to go in and like just scoop in and that they can get anymore. Like everything's kind of like, you know, the flag's already been put down. I mean,
back in the day of Lenin, that was the case. Like, this has been the case for imperialism for a long time. There's basically like nowhere left to expand and hasn't been for ages. It's always so they're having to just fight for scraps.
Yeah.
I think Africa was like the only place that really had like space to expand into, and then parts of Asia. Otherwise, imperialism has basically dominated most of the world. Oh yeah, and South America. But like every one of these regions, like these countries have been bashed in, smashed in, oppressed, and taken over before the days of imperialism even went down. Like the feudal era, when it started to globalize colonialism, when you had like the Spanish Empire and other empires like that, and the British Empire, where they're starting to take up like 20-30% of the world's size, that's where you start to get into this problem where the plundering starts to occur, and then the mass plundering starts to occur, where you start to get this huge conglomeration of wealth occur in Europe, and that, rather than just being it's not like you could draw like a steady line of development. Like this is compounded over time. So as time has gone on, it's gotten worse and worse and worse massively as dialectical accelerations and development have gone on. When new empires have risen, new developments in that empire's functionalities to exist, extract resources, develop products, etc., has led to these mass developments now to the point where what we are plundering in the world today is ridiculous. Like at the end of the day, the fact that we have so much fucking super profits that there is no excuse for the UK, the US, Canada, or any other country to have problems with its health service. No excuse for it to have problems with its education service. There is so much super profits. The bourgeoisie are unwilling to even pay their taxes properly, no more than actually pay more of it to sustain society. They want to keep their fucking shit. They want to have their cake. They can't eat it. You can't have your cake and eat it. But they can, and that's the way they live. And that's the way they fuck everyone up. And it's gonna fuck themselves up. And that's where you've got the rise of social democrats realizing this and been trying to, through the Democrats and through the Green Party in America, push for this stabilization through a pacifistic form of fascism. And they're not going to get through with the Democrats, because the most the Democrats will do is the third way, which is neoliberalism on fascist life support. Or social democrat life support, whichever way you want to look at it. But the fucking you're going to see, and we already have started seeing it, social democrats move to the Republicans or any right-wing group that can back their shit. Because as Stalin rightly said, when social democracy cannot win, it requires the militant form of fascism to be at the forefront. They have a joint hip relationship. They can't succeed without each other. And in the state,
you cut off again. Fucking StreamYard.
More like I was going to say something. It's stream in the sense that you're pissing all over fucking people.
Well, I would like for Stone to finish his point.
Yeah.
where did it cut off?
When you were talking about
life support.
Life support, and how,
Yeah,
social
neoliberalism on life support. Fucking, what's it? That's all the Democrats will do. And so the social democrats in America are going to end up having to side with fascists. It's the only way they're going to win. Liberalism is not going to fully instate what they want. They're only going to get half the pacifism they're trying to push. And if they can't get pacifism and there's this rising fascist movement, we've seen this before. We saw this in Germany. They're just going to fucking move on to the fascists. They're not going to stick around if they're not going to fucking get what they want where they're going. What they want is capitalism stabilized. What they want is imperialism stabilized. People need to get it out of their heads, the idea of, oh, but they're just a nice like person who's in that class and they're just like, you know, subverting the norm. They're being a social democrat. They're nicer to us. They like workers more. Fuck off. Bull motherfucking shit. Like, at the end of the day, they are just as aware of their involvement in the class system as anyone else. These people are bourgeois and petty bourgeois aristocrats, respectively. Not about ownership of property. The aristocracy of these classes, because the bourgeoisie and the petty bourgeoisie are both kind of diverse in this way. They have aristocrats. Like, think about it like a president of a country is a bourgeois aristocrat. like
Yeah.
a country like the United States or the UK with its prime minister or its monarch. Bourgeois aristocracy, and then a lot of more lower rate politicians are more petty bourgeois than
Yeah,
not.
and
But like you've also got
ex-nobility.
the civil
Yeah.
society is where petty bourgeois aristocrats tend to be more found. So the civil society, your civil your civil workers, your civil society lot. But the bibbity bibbity bum bum bum. These factors are you know, they are very fucking well aware of what benefits them, what doesn't benefit them, and what's the most important bottom line of their job. Protect capital at all costs. Expand capital at all costs. At the end of the day, they do not care about whether you get to eat, sleep, or survive unless your eat, sleeping, and otherwise survival and working, etc., is beneficial to the system, beneficial to them. If it's not required to save the system, they don't care if you die. Couldn't give a shit. Like Stalin rightly said, these people are imperialists dressed up as pacifists. They don't give a shit.
That is very true. I mean, if you just look at how they look at the disabled, and you look at and how they look at colonized people and descendants of slavery, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to bring this clown up, but it's why Caleb Maupin is doing what he's doing. The exact same reason why Jimmy Dore is doing as well. They want to stabilize the system by any means necessary.
Oh, you just want to degrowth us.
Yeah, degrowthers.
It's like Caleb Maupin is another fucking person I wish we didn't have to talk about, but unfortunately,
I mean, when he goes on about the degrowthers, it makes me just want to go degrowth me, daddy.
it's like Caleb Maupin's a fucking joke. I wish we could ignore him, but we can't completely ignore him.
Well, these other sock dams, I mean, they've been being problematic this whole time, and
I think Jimmy Dore is more dangerous than Caleb because of his reach, but still,
yeah,
so he's
Glenn Greenwald, Blumenthal, etc.
culture thug.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, unfortunately.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. Sick of Harry Potter.
I'm sick of J.K. Rowling. I'm sick of having to talk about her. I'm sick of having to basically say to people, and anyone can hear knows what I'm talking about. Have to tell people simply, I can't believe I'm bringing this game up again. Fucking Christ, I hate talking about this. Why playing Hogwarts Legacy is a bad thing, and you shouldn't play it. It's a simple fucking thing to do. If you want to play a fucking open world fantasy game, you have plenty of options on whatever freaking console or what's a hardware you play games on. You don't fucking need to play a Harry Potter game, which is probably going to be full of game-breaking bugs anyway. It's like it's literally not that difficult.
Did Hogwarts Legacy come out yet?
I don't know. I don't fucking. It's just, and I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of people not labeling J.K. Rowling for what she is.
Yeah, she's a fucking fascist piece of shit.
I hate people that think you can disconnect her work from the author when there's so much like shit in it.
Yeah, I had to block someone recently who was like doing the whole she's just one person bullshit.
I had a guy at my work. It's like, oh, the only people that listen to her are children. It's like, wait, what? No, no. Politicians, activists. I mean, she's literally friends with literal Nazis.
Yeah, the Tory party.
As the old saying goes, if you're in a room full of Nazis, if you're in a room of 5 Nazis, and and there's one more Nazi that joins in. There isn't 5, there's 6.
Yeah, yeah. If there's 6 people in the room and 5 of them of Nazis, there's 6 Nazis in the room. If the 6th person is not punching, killing, or doing something horrible to those Nazis.
Yeah.
It's like Harry Potter as a whole. This isn't H.P. Lovecraft, who's dead, and his work has been reappropriated by many fucking people. J.K. Rowling, there is no way you could fucking do that, even if she were to die. Because there's so much shit in Harry Potter that if you want to reappropriate it, it wouldn't be the Harry Potter anymore. Not to saying it would be a bad thing that you did that, but I'm just being real. Why do that when there's better fucking works out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's openly, actively.
Yeah,
Like,
Putin defended her.
Yeah, she's literally the face of anti-trans bigotry.
Anti-Semitism
Modern
too.
She's
At least in the UK.
She's a proud Zionist.
Yeah, especially. Yeah.
Given
I don't know how much effect she has on other countries, because I know that she's big in social media spaces, but in public, that's where I'm a bit questionative, because I actually don't know how big her or Harry Potter is in foreign countries. It always seemed like it was more of a minor thing and more of a...
Okay, let's be
Well,
honest.
Putin defended her in a speech recently.
It's not Harry Potter that people with these. I keep saying this. Most people who support J.K. Rowling do not give a flying fuck about Harry Potter.
No, I'm just saying, like, no, but the reason why she'd be known is because of that, is what I'm saying.
I know
Like,
that.
Yeah.
If that's not popular in that country, most people will find a different transphobe. The reason why they're going for her is because her works are popular. So bringing that to the forefront and be like, oh, well, I liked their stuff when I was growing up. Maybe they're right. They're intelligent people. And most of the people that think her writing is intelligent were people who read those books at the age of 7 or 8. Now, someone that age can understand whether something's intelligent or not. However, you're also very easily trickable by people that write like dipshits, because it's very easy to look intelligent when you're writing. Like, you just got to use flamboyant, fancy words, and Joanne ain't fucking short of using fancy fucking words in her fucking books that are meant to be understandable for young people, which is not a smart move. That's just confusing. Fuck you. But the what's it? She's a transphobe, she's an anti-Semite, she's a racist, she's a bigot, she thinks fucking it's okay for her to fucking make light on slavery in her fucking works. Like, genuinely, someone I would love to see suffocate to death.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm just gonna be real with you, because a lot of Harry Potter fans that I've seen don't have distanced themselves from Harry Potter. A lot of them have. Like, the series is not. It doesn't have the staying power that other series have. It's simply because, what is Harry Potter's legacy? And I'm asking a rhetorical question, because I don't know if you saw my stream stone a few streams ago, but I showed a footage of a trans woman talking about Harry Potter and why she can't look at the series anymore, and how when she sees people of Harry Potter merch, she is scared that she doesn't know if she's safe, and that's what Harry Potter represents. And I didn't even know. I'm gonna emphasize this again. We're all Star Wars fans here, so if hypothetically Lucasfilm were to put a transphobe as the successor of Kathleen Kennedy, and you guys can hold me on this, I would disavow anything Star Wars if that had happened, because my trans comrades and members of the LGBTQ
because it came from Lucas at that point, so it's like the whole thing becomes a tainted grove.
To me, my comrades matter more to me than my hobbies and the things that I love, and there is no middle ground on principles. I don't know how many times I have to fucking say it.
To be fair, I haven't heard Lucas say anything bigoted regarding LGBT stuff.
No, I'm not talking about George.
No, I'm just saying, like, It's nothing I've really considered before, but I haven't heard him say anything like that.
Well,
And it wouldn't surprise me that he would be on the fucking side of things. He has had like relatively moderate left politics, and in some accounts, a little more left. I mean, the guy wanted to move to the Soviet Union. I mean, it was in the revisionist era, but he wanted to move to the Soviet Union in the 70s to make Star Wars because less restrictions.
well, I actually wasn't referring to George Lucas himself. I'm talking about if
No, you said if George Lucas had handed it over to a transphobe instead of Kathleen Kennedy, so it would have been
No,
tied to
actually-
Lucas.
no, I'm actually okay. Let me rephrase that.
Okay, no, what I'm saying, so if you don't tie it to Lucas, disavowing the entirety of Star Wars makes no sense.
Well, okay, maybe I should.
Like because what if the actual creator involved in it is showing that their meticulous way of looking at the world is a bit fucked, then it makes sense going all that. To be honest, I don't see the fucking because if it's disconnected from Lucas, then that's where you make the disconnection point. You separate the two things because people know the difference.
Okay, I should have communicated that. Okay, I'm going to say this in a more clear manner. If someone were to succeed Kathleen Kennedy, because she's going to leave eventually, the question is when. If they were to come off as a transphobe, I'm saying the person after Kennedy, not. I would.
No, but this is the point of what I'm saying. If it's that disconnected from Lucas, it makes no sense that you would disavow everything.
Well, I couldn't, in good conscience, openly talk about Star Wars after that because I don't want. I don't know. I hope that day never happens. I'm just saying I really am serious about supporting, a marginalized group, and I don't want to support something that becomes a hate symbol. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Harry Potter is now basically a hate symbol. And
I said on the other stream that I
Fucking
consider
phone cut me off.
I consider J.K. Rowling to be a contributing to hate crimes, etc.
Let's say I'm coming from this marginalized group. One moment. Sorry, my mic cut off again.
Okay, let's not.
So, one second. I'm coming from this marginalized group, so let me just speak on it for a moment. It's all well and good for people to make those disavowments. Good on you. No point going so far to it that you're disavowing stuff that's not even tied to the problem. Like, the stuff before that person would have come in is not the problem, it's the stuff after that. Mm-hmm. And so it's more that you've got to boycott the way that it is at that point and where it's going to, because there was obviously something that was perfectly fine with Lucas Star Wars before then, and maybe even to a certain extent some of the stuff from the modern era. But at that point where that change has occurred, you make that disconnection. The reason why it's a full disavowment with Joanne's work is her reactionary content is in it all. There is nothing that is salvageable.
I
agree, and I personally.
Let me just put it this way: we don't want you all to fucking sacrifice all the stuff you enjoy to help us. There's a level.
Well,
1 second.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's that. Yeah, they don't want us to It's the whole stereotype that a lot of these right wingers think of. The stereotypical SJW. Oh, you can't like nice things or something like that.
Well, I personally don't think Lucasfilm would be that dumb. At least I'd hope not. To have someone like that in charge of Star Wars. Because
so far, they've actually been pretty decent.
I'll just say Lucasfilm. I don't think would be that stupid to do that, because there's a lot of people in those communities that are fans of Star Wars, and those who would support them as well. So. But I'm just entertaining a hypothetical.
So Lucasfilm does it the other way, or maybe you could scratch this up to Disney. Actually, you would scratch it up to Disney because they've done it with their own films, and that's you get your progressive films for our country, and then countries like China get a movie where progressive stuff's cut out.
Saudi Arabia, Emirates,
or you get a fascist movie like Wakanda Forever.
Oh,
that has Wakanda versus the Atlanteans. I don't care what anyone says. Wakanda is basically America, and no one's gonna change my
I mean,
mind.
to be honest, against the Atlanteans, I'm still going to be cheering on Wakanda because Atlantis is like literally something Hitler believed in, and is where the Aryans apparently came
Rudolph.
from to get to Scandinavia.
Rudolph Steiner and Dugan
Well,
as well.
okay. Well, I'm going by the MCU story. I don't know what's in the
No,
comics.
I'm just saying that, like, well, Hitler predates the MCU. That's what I'm saying. So, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, Atlantis, that place Hitler likes, and then a country in Africa. I'm gonna support the country in Africa. I'm gonna be reactionary on this one. Fuck y'all.
Well, okay. The thing is, the people in the movie Wakanda Forever, they're descendants of people that survived genocide, and Wakanda collaborates with fucking NATO.
Well, that's not good.
That's why I don't.
That's-
That is why I'm
that's-
not. I don't think
wow.
Wakanda is innocent in any way.
Well,
They
I didn't
don't-
say they were innocent. I did say I was being reactionary in this engagement. I didn't know it was going to be that bad, though. Jesus Christ.
It's worse than the first movie. I'm not joking. I was so speechless when I watched. Like, what the fuck am I watching? Are they really doing what I think they're going to do? And by the way, this was before I saw the movie. It's like they're going to demonize indigenous people. Just watch. Oh wait, I was right. It is even worse than I thought it would be. I can't believe they subverted my expectations by making it even worse. It's like, what the fuck? I'm just gonna say this: Marvel is extremely reactionary. It was always reactionary, but it's even worse since Phase 4 started.
Yeah.
Like, there was this good video on it was done by a black woman that talked about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I didn't realize how reactionary that show was until I've heard of like the conservative politics the show pushes.
That's the only thing I could say on that kind of front is Avatar 2 ain't good.
I liked Avatar 2, actually. I thought it was pretty good.
What's it? It's got so many problems with it, though. Like the whole colonialism fetish stuff, and it has like great replacement stuff. Really, like the whole premise: the colonizers turn into the colonized to oppress the colonized. Like there's so much of the whole like we're all going to become one of them eventually, just in the pretext. They haven't even got into what the film's about. That's just the pretext.
Well, the Avatar, that's actually not what happened. It was basically is the people that were in the Navi's bodies, they actually had their memories downloaded from people that actually died in the previous movie. They actually aren't. They're only Navi in body only. They don't know the culture or the people.
No. It's not about the culture. It's about the fact they're in their bodies. That's what white people believe. They believe they're going to be bred out of existence and become black people, regardless of culture. They'll still have their culture, but they will become the black people. That's the point I'm getting at. Like, it has like some weird... I don't know, like, the first Avatar film was already rampant with fucking Victorian humanism, so I'm expecting something as bad as the first film.
I think the second film is better, if I have to be real with you, than the first.
I'll have to give it a watch then. I bet the Avatar is... it's a stressful fucking film because it's so fucking long. Is the second one as long as the first one?
Yes. Okay, the thing is, I don't deny there isn't some reactionary stuff in it, but then again, if I were to, there's reactionary stuff in almost every fucking thing we watch. So I'm not going to just sit around and say there isn't anything reactionary. There is, obviously. I don't think it's as bad as the first film, though. I will not ignore indigenous people's criticisms towards it, though. I will not ignore that because they have every right to criticize it. Every right.
The only thing I can say is for 100%, do not watch it in 3D. You're going to get a headache if you do.
I can't because I wear glasses.
I remember getting out of Avatar, and literally I felt like I was going to vomit uncontrollably. I was like, Jesus Christ, my head is spinning.
Sky High. I forgot that. I never saw that movie, but I've heard it's fascist propaganda. What the fuck is Sky High anyway? I've heard it like pushes eugenics regarding like people with superpowers and people who don't have superpowers.
Ooh.
Fucking Christ! What
I
the?
actually have a working computer now. It's like Windows XP era and is running Linux at the moment, but I now have a laptop.
Wait, we're running. Wait, you're running this? You're doing this on a Windows XP? I'm impressed.
No. I just got this through the post. Like I haven't even set it up on my Wi-Fi yet. I hope it has a wireless adapter. I mean, if it's anything like the broken one that I got, it should do.
Jesus, we strayed so far from the original topic. Fucking Christ. Then again, it's not unrelated considering these J.K. Rowling and all these people do like collaborate with each other, whether it's directly or indirectly.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been referenced each other. Like J.K. Rowling openly supported Matt Walsh's movie.
She supports Matt Walsh. Oh my god!
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah, it happened.
That guy is a fucking pedophile.
Yeah.
No, he literally fetishized about like 16-year-old women's virginity. Like he's literally a
14.
fucking pedophile. 14, there you go, 14-year-old, even worse.
When that was exposed, he doubled down on it.
Yeah, he did. He deserves the worst style of
He
treatment
deserves to
ever.
be fucking skinned alive on drugs that
Yeah.
ensure that he stays alive for the whole process, and it doesn't numb a single bit of the pain.
There hasn't been one fascist that hasn't been a pedophile. Not one.
I mean, there probably has. Like, I wouldn't go around that sort of logic. I mean, it's funny to insult everyone like that, but there probably are fascists that aren't that. Rapists, however, I mean, most of them are rapists. It's what's it? It's like the whole point I'm laying out on this. I'm not jumping to defend no one. I'm just saying, like, you gotta be accurate with your statements of people. Because if you say every single one's a fascist, people can just pull up people that aren't. Sorry, every one of them's a pedo. You can just pull up ones that aren't, and so people will then use that as like positions to lay out that you make shit. You put stuff out there that's wrong. You gotta be very specific. So I would say that they're all rapists. It varies in level, like how bad of a rapist they are. Whether they just rape fucking adults or whether they're a full-blown fucking child rapist.
Yeah, it's like, like there's certain fascists or like over the top, like who is that guy head of like the Otto Dore Wanger Brigade? I can't even say his name, but he was head of like a Waffen S penal colony of former criminals, and he was like a convicted pedophile who raped somebody. He spent pretty much the whole war in Belarus just killing civilians and children. I forget his name. Otto Dore Wanger.
Okay, I'll take it this one. It may be inaccurate to call all fascist pedophiles, but it doesn't change the fact they're predators.
Oh yeah, no, they are all predators in some way or another. I mean, fucking what's it? One of the fucking games of fascism is to be predatory on the working class movement to try and crash it.
Yeah.
And they deserve the same fate as pedophiles.
There's only one cure to fascism. Only one. Okay, maybe that's
barrel of a gun.
Okay, that was something
a nice re-education, and you tuck them into bed.
I was trying to be a little more PG, but whatever. Shoot them. Oh, please think of the fascists. Please think of the poor fascists that were murdered by the Soviet Union. Please think of the poor fascists. One thing
The Is it true that the victims of Communist Foundation literally include the number of Germans killed by the Soviet Union in their totals for communist deaths?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what really angers me though about people that are dishonest with the death toll of communism, those who claim to condemn both fascism and communism, they can give one idle of a fuck about the victims of fascism. Like we could just pull World War II alone. That's like, and it's like in like I think it's like 60 to 80 million people murdered by fascism. Assuming that they didn't underreport the numbers and they aren't like it's not in the hundreds of millions, we'll never know. But they give so much attention to the deaths of communists, yet they give none to fascists. Maybe just a lip service.
Maybe.
And every time they have to do it, it's always like, oh, it's this famine or that famine and this and that. And it's like when you listing fascists, it's like literal straight up death camps. Getting shot.
It's like,
yeah.
I know this is edgy to say this. I don't care. I don't think the Soviets killed enough fascists.
Yeah, I mean, I said before, there was no denazification in Western Europe or Italy, etc., or Yugoslavia for that matter.
If there was, we wouldn't be dealing with so many of their descendants.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but you're as bad as the fascists for like saying that the communists should have killed more. I don't care. Why do I care about some dead Nazis? I don't. I really
Historians, after the war, historians will tell you that Nazis vanished without a trace, but battalions of fascists still dream of a master race. The history buffs will tell you their defeat in 45. Well, did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? They say the prisoner of Spandau was a symbol of defeat, while Hess remained in prison, then the fascists, they were beat. If that's the case, then why did they come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? The world is riddled with maggots, and maggots are getting too fat. They're making a tasty meal of all the bosses and bureaucrats. They're filling up the boardrooms and they're fat and full of pride. They all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. So when you meet with these historians, I'll tell you what to say. Tell them that the Nazis never really went away. They're out there burning houses down and peddling racist lies, and will never rest again until every Nazi dies.
That is accurate. Now, Jesus, we went from Jimmy Dore to do
most
whatever.
of them are in Davos.
Yes.
But to be fair, these things always tend to go in Godwin's law way. What is it, like the old saying goes? It's like, as a conversation goes on long enough, it usually just devolves. Like, eventually, Nazism is going to be brought up some way, somehow.
Well, it's like everyone's like, oh, Darth Sinovio, you think everyone you hate is a Nazi. It's like, actually, that's accurate. Everyone I hate is a Nazi. Because the people that hate me the most are literal fucking Nazis.
Wait, what? The charger has a blue LED on it. That's so cool.
You know, if I'm not hated by Nazis, what the fuck am I doing? That's what I'm gonna say.
Right. Especially in the theme of all these SOCDEMs pushing this red-brown shit.
It's like
yeah.
Fucking, you have Haas basically saying, "Oh, I want to make communism as unappealing as possible."
Yeah, he admitted to that openly. Mm-hmm.
What would Haas say on Jimmy Dore's show? What the fuck?
I'm still waiting for his definition of MAGA communism, because when he was being asked, like, "Oh, what is MAGA communism?" he's like, "Oh, just look at my Substack or whatever the fuck he said.
Yeah,
Right
honest,
here, I'll link you my article." That's a good way to define
You
something.
want to know a really good video that I watched today? It's actually done. I don't know if you saw the link to it. It's done by um, a young black man that talked about black conservatism. It was just uploaded not that long ago. I think it's a really good video. It's a good insight on the origins of black, because as people that are white, like we don't. It's like it's not in our place to really like. We could criticize their ideas, but we don't really understand them because of their experiences are not the same. And
Yeah,
when you learn about their stories, you can't help but have empathy for them. And I think it's a good. People should watch this because this is coming from a black perspective. And I do advocate, even if we disagree with these people's ideas, this person's ideas, I don't know where they lie. They seem left wing to me. It's important that we listen to the perspective of people from various diasporas, because their perspective is what's gonna help us understand and empathize with their struggle. Because if we listen to what other people have to say about their struggle, it ain't gonna do anything for us.
yeah.
Right.
As white people, we're fucking ignorant as fuck about these people's struggles. We don't have these experiences ourselves, so we have to learn it from them, the source.
And I've actually worked with several black, well, I guess you could say black conservatives over the years. And it's also, it really is kind of like that white kind of mindset of, oh, all black people think the same. They're all just like this hive mind or something like that. It's really that kind of stereotypical thinking that, like, I've tried to always break out of people's minds.
That is wrong.
It's like the whole. It's like calling Africa a country or something. It's like Africa.
The thing about black conservatism, the origins stem from slavery.
Yeah.
It's respectability politics. That's where it comes from. And I think it's important that for those people in our audience who don't have these experiences to watch this video. I think it's really good. It actually gives you a history, on black conservatism and fascism, and so you can have an understanding of it.
I can barely hear you, Dark Snowman.
You got noise suppression on or something? Cutting you out.
Fuck, of course, when I'm saying something that's actually fucking informative at YouTube, of course I'm getting fucking censored by the YouTube, whatever. Because I said this earlier, that reactionaries and what's in the African diaspora and others like them are not the same as white reactionaries, and I think we need to make a distinction between them. Because now I don't know, I'm not gonna do this like this tier of reactionary because that's just dumb. I'm just saying the experiences from these communities is why they are the way they are, and they're not all bad people. They some of them do hold views that are progressive. It's just it's ingrained in their culture because of this racist white supremacist culture that is America. Yeah. I won't speak for their experiences because I don't know their experience. I haven't experienced it. But if you watch this video, if you learn why is there a lot of homophobia and transphobia in the African diaspora, it explains that. And but then again, when people from let's say new African households, when they meet other people, when they get out of the nest as they would say, that's where a lot of them become more liberal or left wing because they're not living in their parents' household. They're raised that way. And there's different kinds of black conservatives also. There's the genuine ones, and then there's the grifters, which are not the same. It was
Yeah, and
very informative, and I recommend everyone here to watch the video. Like you will learn a lot.
yeah, I'm gonna watch it for sure. And I've talked a little bit about how there's also that trend where slowly every 2 years, there's more Hispanic people and even indigenous people, switching from like Team Blue to the Team Red and all that. And
Yeah, but it's not as
this,
big as you think. It's like it only seems big because you see their presence on social media. If you actually go to the real world, they're nowhere near as big as you. Social media, the trick of social media, the biggest lie is it makes it seem like the majority of people on social media that's how think this way, and that's not fucking true. I've spoken to plenty of black like people outside of social media. They're not like a lot of these reactionaries or these black liberals. It's nonsense. It's
right,
so easy to see that because social media doesn't actually make us see these people as human. In fact, it doesn't make us see each other as human. It just puts us all in a monolith, and that's the mistake that I'm just going to criticize myself. A lot of us make. Social media doesn't speak for all these communities. You have to physically
right.
go out and talk to these people, as the saying goes, touch some grass. Having a conversation with these people, you'll learn. These there isn't as many of these kind of people as you think. It only seems that way because they're the most vocal. Any fucking dipshit with a fucking mic could make it seem like they speak for the majority, and they really don't.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I had to like tell people that like more than half the country doesn't even vote. So so like even voters are in the minority, and we already know about people being barred from voting. So it's like literally like over 55% of the population doesn't vote.
I wouldn't say they're the minority, but they're
Well,
not. They're because if it's a huge still a huge percentage of people voting, that's not the minority of of people. Honestly, I wouldn't say that, but it's not as
maybe I
big as
phrased
they say it is.
right. Well, I was just talking about in general when but maybe I phrased myself a bit wrong there on accident. I just meant the point that like, there's just looking at the voting statistics, we know that like half the country at least doesn't vote. But yeah, I know what
Well,
you're saying though, and I
it,
agree with the social media.
it's
You
becoming a
know,
minority, though. That is true, but it's not quite there yet.
hmm
But more and more people are seeing that it's futile to vote.
hmm
And let's be honest here, these
yeah,
fascists see
Actually,
that as
so
well.
so it was been on the drop for ages, except Biden's election actually had one of the largest voter turnouts in a while. It wasn't massive, but it was actually quite large compared to the last 10 years.
What was the turnout?
So
I don't know for numbers specifically, but it was like, I think it was like the largest since Bush's era.
he is, I mean, yeah, Stone is right. 2020, I think it was like over 60%. A lot of that had to do with COVID, mail-in ballots and stuff. So it was 62.8%. Yeah, so that's like what 63%. So yeah, that is actually a lot bigger than.
That is
yeah,
big. But again, that I'm not going to dispute that because that's not shocking considering the
right.
the the scare
But
that
they're
people had
yeah, but they're
over
yeah.
COVID, Trump.
Well, there's certain regions of the country where you go after 2020, you notice the big drop from 2020 to 2022. It just kind of depends, but like California was one of them where in the midterm primaries, only 18 or 20% went out to vote within the whole state. Obviously, in 2020, it was huge and all that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, and don't get it wrong, maybe 2024 will be another surge. Or maybe
You're probably
it
going to
won't.
have a big, depending on who runs on the, who gets the nomination on the Republican side. You'll probably get a huge surge simply because, scare tactics. Oh, if you vote for this
Yeah.
person, if this person isn't, if you don't vote for this person, you'll have blah 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 blah. It's like, to be honest with you, I cannot say for certain who's going to be the Republican nominee because we don't. Ron DeSantis looks like he's just burning like himself before like he announces his presidential run.
Yeah, and Trump's been attacking him like every week and all that.
It's just Ron DeSantis is stripping on his own sword at this point. Like had he not acted the way he is, like I think he would have had a decent chance at running. I don't think he does in 2024. He may have a shot in 2028. Just remember in history, just because someone loses like one time doesn't mean they'll
right.
like, because remember Richard Nixon, he lost the first time, so did Reagan.
He lost the governorship too, but of course, they still elected him for president out here in California.
Nixon actually has a long history of trying to get like into higher positions of office. So like in the 30s, Nixon had like a big attempt to try and get himself forward, and he completely flopped.
Like I said, we shouldn't judge. Even if Ron DeSantis fails that in next year, doesn't mean he's going to fail like in 2028 or 2032. We should never claim that, because if history is proof of anything, Richard Nixon and Reagan, they've lost presidential elections before, and they still became president.
I almost had an existential crisis when you said the word 2032. I'm like, jeez. Well, I don't even want to dream of what the world would look like by then. It's like saying the 2055 or something.
Okay, I'm just saying this based on what I've studied in history, that if Richard Nixon, like, he became president despite losing badly, like against Kennedy, and Reagan, like he almost won actually the primary. Like, I forgot what election that was. So I'm just saying we should never underestimate our enemies, because even if they lose one time, okay, people like Hillary Clinton, she'll never win. Let's be honest. Even if she runs, like, if she runs a third time, people are like, no, we're done with this shit. Kamala Harris will never become president. She won't either.
I agree on that one for sure.
As for Trump, if Trump does get the nomination, I don't know how things will go with Biden.
I stand by my prediction. It's going to be riding with Biden.
In
2024.
And fuck Gavin Newsom if he decides to run. Yeah.
For some reason, Irish Joe seems to always manage to pull it out. No matter how much he manages to fuck everything up. Like, wasn't the midterm supposed to be a disaster for him?
I mean, if Joe had actually fucking gotten his policies through on the Build Back Better, he would be so much more popular in the country right now.
Yeah, Joe Manchin really did.
Joe Biden is actually more like so Joe Biden is what is known as the third way. The third way are a mix of like neoliberalism and social democracy. Like I said, it's neoliberalism on fascist life support. Biden has elements where he will appeal to social democracy. He's the perfect example of it being only at a point when they need to take advantage of it. He is a rampant imperialist, a rampant racist. We've seen video clips of him galore going like this. But at the point where we are now, he's pushing more social democratic ideas. He's allowing them to be overturned, but he is pushing more of these ideas, along with people like Bernie. Him and Bernie are actually not that far away from each other. The difference between them is one wants a public option, the other one wants a more universal healthcare. And to be honest, not actually. Like, Bernie's shit is still like half-assed. It's still not all the way. But nonetheless, the Biden and Bernie are not years apart; they're days apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's be honest here, universal health care under capitalism, it's kind of a joke, really.
It's an
honestly.
oxymoron.
I know that myself. Really.
Yeah.
But I cannot look in a crystal ball and say for certain what's going to happen. It's just I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. I'll just say this: Gavin Newsom is just as right wing as Biden, if not. I mean, they're still fascists, anyways. But yeah.
Well,
I
I
can
don't-
predict one thing.
what?
The bourgeoisie's candidate will win in 2024. That much.
Yeah.
Regardless who it is.
Just
Or the
depends
petty
on which faction.
bourgeoisie.
Does it really matter who wins? The bourgeoisie wins either way.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
the defense contractors care. I mean, which contractors get which.
Well, these people, they want another war, and I don't think the war in Ukraine is enough for these bloodthirsty psychopaths.
Yeah, it's
Certainly
crazy.
not. I mean, didn't they recently attack Iran or something?
Well, and then there's
Haven't
the
even heard anything about.
whole Biden shooting down the balloon just to I don't know.
Where the
It's
fuck are my
yeah.
tablets?
It's like if it was a spy thing or not, why the fuck should I care?
Right.
Oh my god, it went over Cleveland.
I mean, we had Marjorie Green Taylor telling people to shoot at the balloon on Twitter. It's
Fucking Jewish space lasers. She actually believes in the Jewish space lasers conspiracy, or she made it. I can't remember what it was, but
yeah, she reposted it. Yeah.
Normal person.
Imagine Caleb Maupin inviting her on his show.
probably already has.
Greenwald already did that, so last week.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
Well, Glenn Greenwald was using fucking, I don't know if he still is, but was using fucking Dore like a tool anyway. A lot of Dore's fascistic fucking elements,
Mhm.
were sharpened. Was sharpened by Greenwald. Greenwald took him from
Right.
a yobbo into an articulative force.
Right.
Yeah. Greenwald was always an anti-communist, though. That's the things that.
Or Jimmy Dore.
Anti-EB too. Yeah.
Jimmy Dore could run for president. It wouldn't shock me.
Oh yeah, I remember they were entertaining that shit.
I don't think he's good. I don't think he has a chance at winning, but I think he would definitely.
He won't. He definitely won't make it on a few states ballots for sure.
But it would be enough to split the vote.
Which
Yeah.
parties he could run under? Again. People's Party.
People's Party.
Oh, but guys, but Jimmy Dore is right about this one issue, this X and X issue. It's yeah, well, as the old saying goes, a broken clock is right at least twice a day. Doesn't mean anything. It's yeah, you're right about something that anyone with a brain can see.
Right.
What a fucking disgrace! I can't believe I fucking was a fan of that freaking guy.
Yeah. Same thing with Blumenthal as well, and his whole campus shit and pro blue boy shit and.
But guys, we have to support Russia's imperialist war against Ukraine.
And I totally didn't name it the Gray Zone after Wagner's Gray Zone website.
Oh, but guys,
Wait. What?
Yeah, so Max Blumenthal named it the Gray Zone, but the Wagner PMC, they had it with a different letter, the other way.
Well, they had it spelled the correct way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what they're referring to when they're saying, "Oh yes, someone already had the word grey written properly." Intriguing.
Yeah. Hmm.
But guys, but we also have to support China's imperialism in Latin America and Africa. Even it's not actually imperialism, guys, when China does it.
Actually, imperialism doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, we live in a post-imperialist world, guys. So,
Oh,
but did you know?
and Lula's blowing up, or already blew up, a aircraft carrier because in the ocean, which is going to like cause a lot of environmental problems. Because it's like a huge amount of metal, you know. Um, of course, doing it because they didn't want to put it on the port or whatever. So yeah, that's your Stockton fascism Brazil there, poisoning the water.
Every signal fucking social democrats a fascist.
I
Yeah.
think the dumbest reaction I saw to the Chinese balloon thing was from Caleb Muppet when he said, "Can we?" The title of his live stream was, "Can we not start World War III over a balloon?" Guys, and imagine being a communist and this is your primary concern.
Yeah. Yeah,
Am I
both
wrong?
sides are
There's a lot more
ridiculous.
than just a balloon going on in the world right now. A world war is not caused by a spark. This is like the type of morons that are like, "Oh yeah, World War One, that was caused by the assassination of Francis fucking Ferdinand or whatever the fuck." It's like, no. No, the war basically started in fucking, fucking 1910. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it kicked off in Europe in 1914. But it's already kicking off around the world in fucking 1910. There was a Great Depression that occurred in 1910, which then caused the need for the Germans, the British, and every other motherfucker to start expanding. Which, lo and behold, there were skirmishes between these fucking empires over these expansions.
Mhm.
Who the funk? And I mean, you could argue that actually the proceedings to what enveloped eventually what was World War One come from the Second Boer War in the in South Africa. It was 1905.
What a bourgeois fucking thing to say. Oh, I don't want World War III. It's like, well, yeah, because World War III would actually basically open up the doors for revolution, and none of these fuckers want a revolution.
Yes.
I personally think the sooner World War III happens, the better. I'm sorry. I know that sounds insane to me saying that. It's gonna happen no matter what. I'd rather have it happen sooner than later.
I mean, just imagine calling yourself a communist and just like this is your primary concern at the moment. It's fucking
Yeah.
some balloon getting shot over that may or may not be a spy. Now, let's say it is a spy thing for a second. It's going to go over and take pictures of like Detroit and Cleveland and see a bunch of poverty in the United States. Okay. But that would be nice if that was actually what was really being happening here.
It's just going over Montana in the woods or whatever the hell. Like,
Okay.
I mean, for God's sake, is it like at the end of the day, the question is it even a fucking like spy balloon, or is it just a fucking balloon? Because if it's just a fucking balloon, can everyone just chill the fuck out? If it's a spy balloon, also chill the fuck out. What the fuck is it managing to spy on? Like, it's gonna take it 7 years to actually get to anything important. Like, just shoot the cunt down. There you go. Problem solved. It's a balloon. It's not a dangerous weapon. It's not going to kill you. If you shoot the balloon down, it's not going to make an international incident either. Like, China's not going to, like, ring America and be like, "Oi, why did you shoot my balloon?"
Okay, none of us here desire war. That's not why I say I want World War III to happen sooner rather than later. It's because it's going to happen no matter what, and I'd rather just get it done and over with.
I want it because I'm part of the fucking Trans-Satanic Alliance. But the, fucking, No, it's not so much about it being over and done with, really. I mean, the facet of it is that as the dialectical changes in capitalism are occurring as a shift, a new empire is rising to the hegemonic position. Everything is in flux. Acceleration is occurring as we speak. The war itself is a massive acceleration of these developments, of this crumbling of capitalism, and as we've seen, great imperialist wars every fucking time cause an uptake in left-wing radicalism and communist struggle, proletarian working class struggle, and so the war would be an undoing for the bourgeoisie, and they enough of them know it that they've been trying to avoid it, but enough of them also know they can't avoid it anymore. So it's going it's going in circles and roundabouts, as we say over here.
It's kind of like the whole, the
Well-
bourgeoisie want to do liberalism, but they kind of know they also got to do fascism
Well-
as well, and they just
Well,
keep fucking.
For the bourgeoisie, they're basically in a position they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. So, yeah.
Setup will be complete in approximately 34 minutes. Bastards.
Yeah, I don't know much more to add. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean, I don't
Jesus.
know. Does anybody have anything else?
I was just gonna say, the recent earthquake in Turkey and Syria was pretty terrible. I think it's like 5,000 dead so far. Yeah, the
Jeez,
climate
5,000?
disaster.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was a 7.8 earthquake, and
Fucking Christ.
yeah, this is the climate disaster that we're up against, and
And
that was kind of my
I'm-
ending.
would
Now.
be
I'm sure Erdogan is gonna really take care of this really nicely.
I wouldn't be
What it
surprised
is.
if Jimmy Dore denies climate change.
Yeah, I mean, I bet many of these SOC teams are gonna do that
Well,
anyways
but then
in
again,
a few months.
But again, remember the article said that Jimmy Dore doesn't really have much of an ideology. Well, he
Mhm.
does, obviously, but you get my drift.
Yeah,
When I say when I mean he doesn't have an ideology, he does, but we know exactly what they're talking about.
right.
It's
like-
it's an ideology that has the aesthetics of not being an ideology. or
Okay,
being
let's
an
be
ideology.
real here. Okay, let's be honest. None of these people that Jimmy Dore had a falling out with are the good guys. They're all fucking awful.
Yeah, we know. I know what you're referring to. Yeah, all the loops and all that.
Like they're all fucking.
Yeah.
There's no good guys.
Young turds.
Yeah,
The Young Turks are fucking fascist too. So
yeah, and
let's
they're
not
union
kid
busting.
ourselves.
Yeah, they're union busting just as much as Jimmy Dore. Yeah, NATO money. Yeah.
And I don't know what more we can add to this. I mean, we've exhausted anything we could talk about regarding these people.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any final things to add?
I think Jimmy Dore does an extreme disservice to people that want to recreationally use marijuana. Honestly, like seriously, like him going out there and promoting that he's like this big weed pothead all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Or promoting all about promoting this like I'm just a dumbass, but I'm gonna support fascism shit. I seriously think it does a real disservice to people that actually are recreational. Same thing with Bill Maher too, honestly. Both of them go fuck themselves.
What about you, noob?
I was just gonna say. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. And, fuck fascism. Fuck social democracy. We had to say our last words on all these fascist characters because we're not liberals. We got to address what's the current state of affairs. So yeah,
Is there anything you want to add to this, Stone?
What's it? I mean, like, we're at a point where the whole system of capitalism is in flux. It's in a collapsing crisis as well as change. I want to get up something I had said in regards to volunteerism. No, voluntarism. One second. Just gotta find it on Skype chat. Okay, don't let me search then. Okay, here's a message I sent responding to a voluntarist position. The main point of what I state regarding revolutionary organizing is where I see the key.
You cut off.
It.
Wait! This thing is shit. I can't tab out and read something. Fuck off.
God, it's almost as if fucking the FBI is, or the CIA is trying to.
No, it's just a fucking crappy fucking thing. Doesn't fucking keep on when I'm fucking tabbing out.
Just finish what you've said.
I'm trying to. Like, fucking hell, I've got to find a way to paste it onto Google, because if I iron in a different app than Google, it cuts me off.
Oh, okay, sorry. I mean, take your time. I'm not in a rush. Just finish what you said. Just take your time.
Why won't it just scroll over there? Just scroll to the fucking start. Okay. Here's a message I sent responding to a voluntarist position, but the main point of what I state regarding revolutionary organizing is key to where I see the dissonance between the positions on struggle between anti-chauvinist MLMs like myself and MLM third worldists. Oh wow, it cut it off towards the end because fucking StreamYard. Oh my god. Let me get up YouTube and post it in a comment thing. Oh my god, this is so fucking retarded. Paste. Okay. Quote, I put it this way. Conditions for revolution are required. You couldn't just make a revolution out of thin air. A point I've had to lay out to Z posters about color, quote-unquote color revolutions. However, the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie will never be toppled by crisis itself. Capitalism not only thrives off of crisis, but this line of quote-unquote voluntarism also makes the mistake of the quote-unquote water wheel will end slavery mentality as stated by ancient Greek philosophers. How wrong was that, wanker? At the end of the day, the conditions to organize the proletariat in even the most the conditions to organize the proletariat exist in even the most imperialist of countries, and even at times of super profit buy-offs, the lower pros and plumpen pros still exist and can be organized, and therefore revolutionary struggle can be waged.
build its strength, and organize as much dual power that it can conjure. When the conditions are ripe, the revolutionary orgs have to have already constructed a proletarian vanguard and must already be engaging in mass organizing. This is why organizing of the proletariat and lumpenproletariat is a must. We must develop a proletarian vanguard. Otherwise, the ripe conditions will shoot past us. Steel beams don't take shape because of waiting for perfect conditions. Steel beams take shape because the workers forged the steel into a beam. Revolution works on the same pretense. End quote.
That is that I don't even know. I can't say anything that would top that on a stone.
Yeah, thanks.
It's an objective fact. I will end this stream with, at least on my end, by apologizing to everyone that I did not heed the warnings about Jimmy Dore and did not acknowledge my part in it when it comes to my white privilege regarding that. And the harm that I may have caused, no, not may, have caused by being negligent. The people of other marginalized groups have no reason to trust us when we're not willing to self-criticize and acknowledge mistakes that we have made.
Yeah, I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I'm a walking, talking mistake maker.
We have a lot of cut out for us. I'm only human. I've made some mistakes, and I will probably make mistakes in the future. I'm only human, and what best way we can move forward is learning from them. As a former Jamie Dore viewer, my mistake, and I'll criticize myself for this, is believing in someone blindly without being objective about it. Then again, I'm not the only one who was in that position. There was people like myself who were disillusioned by the system, and Jimmy Dore took advantage of people like that, and still does. People like that are the reason why we need to organize the proletariat, because if we don't do it, people like Jimmy Dore will.
Yep. I mean, what's it? Oh, wait. I'm going to end up cutting off. That's the ballpark with fascists. They are looking to fucking disseminate the working class movement, to turn their heads away from the struggle, and that's where you get the two elements of it. You have the attempts to militarize the struggle and make it, like the Nazis did, where they geared their own people into for lack of a better word, a holy crusade against communism. This fucking crazy spiritualist Aryan dominance that's guaranteed to them by some old Saxon warrior from 10 Summit. These kooky bastards normally won't get a twinkle of thought from the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie doesn't usually give a fuck about these bourgeois and petty bourgeois aristocrats that exist that push these fucking crazy ideas, because usually they subvert liberalism. And the bourgeoisie are like, well, yeah, but liberalism, guys. But as soon as they can't keep their liberalism intact and like things are going to shit, they'll run to these fucking kooky, crazy bastards. All of a sudden now, they're not so kooky and crazy. They're very, very necessary, great patriots of the society that we should fucking collaborate with. And so the whole thing changes. That's why there's the whole measure of, like, the bourgeoisie. Like it's not about just the people. The people saw Hitler as a clown, maybe, yeah. The ones who knew of his existence. The bourgeoisie would have probably known him more, because he was trying to be a political voice and trying to make a point of change. And Strata already had support of certain industrialists in the early 20s. So there was some interaction with the bourgeoisie. They knew of his existence. He was seen as a clown. Not only a clown, but a threat.
especially with the socialist rhetoric that the Nazis were pushing, and the Nazis were a little more fucking what's it? So the thing to understand with the Nazis, when we look at them today, we see everything. So it's the lines are a little more fucking interweaved. Everything was a little more blurry back then. So like a lot of people only saw one side of how Hitler shown his face. We get to see both sides of his two-faced motions, but a lot of people only saw one side of how he shows himself and the other side in the 20s and the early 30s. Because there's that old propaganda piece that shows Hitler, out one side of his mouth he says one thing, and out the other side of his mouth he says the other thing. And this is the ballpark of fascists. Fascists know how to talk the fucking talk.
That is true. And we need to get with the program because we, like Black Red Guard said in one of his videos years ago, if we don't, we're all going to end up in a mass grave. None of these petty squabbles over differences in like, what are we are Maoists or Leninists or third worldists or anarchists matters at this stage, considering they outgun and they're outgunning us and out organizing us. We have to get our shit together. Anyway, I don't have any much to say because you pretty much took my words out of anything I could have said out of my mouth, and basically, I'm not going to say any more except fuck fascism, fuck Jimmy Dore, and any of his sycophants that still support this fucking clown. Let's not call him a clown. This fucking so-called champion of the working class when he's one of the working class's biggest enemies and collaborator of fascists. Down with fascism.